Chapter 96, Kill All the Way. Chapter 96, Kill All the Way. With white smoke engulfing him, Sure Yan's thoughts were all about bloodthirst, brutality, insanity, and terror, while under the effect of the negative energy. There was only a single desire, and that was to kill them all. Standing amid the 5 warriors from the dark world, Sure Yan had a rigid face. One after another magic snakes, made of negative energy, tried to intertwine those warriors crazily. Bang! One dark world warriors scratched Sure Yan's chest. Sure Yan chuckled cunningly as he kicked that warrior bluntly. His 10 fingers were like spears and left 10 bloody holes on the warrior's chest in an instant. With that guy's miserable screams, Sure Yan stepped back and blocked another attack from another warrior's green light to his head. 3 formed quietly on his 2 sides and his back. Standing amid the 3, Sure Yan looked at the 5 dark world warriors coldly. Want to kill me? I want to kill you too. Kill! Those dark world warriors yelled and rushed forward together. The warrior who got 5 blood holes in his chest suddenly sat down cross-legged. Green thorns were triggered by him and shot from his palms. Profound level martial skill. Dozens of icy, needle-like thorns flashed through the air toward Sure Yan like lightning. Dang, 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 dang. The crisp sound of metal on metal came from all over Sure Yan's body as they couldn't break Sure Yan's petrification martial spirit. The badly injured man's pale face changed as he ordered, "Strike together!" The other 4 warriors went to the 4 corners, while Sure Yan was at the center point. For blue curtains appeared from above their heads like clouds and formed together before they thrust toward Sure Yan. The blue curtains had so strong power that they bound Sure Yan in an instant. The 4 warriors were delighted as they jumped up and took out weapons to stab Sure Yan. "Field! Trigger!" Sure Yan shouted. The 4 warriors were inside the invisible and were wrapped by them all of a sudden. Being greatly distorted, the 4 warriors turned stiff and couldn't even operate their profound chi. Deeply horrified, they didn't know what exactly had happened. "Howl!" Sure Yan shouted into the sky, his muscles trembling. At the same time, the white smoke became denser and all sorts of negative energies were triggered. In an instant, a vicious power broke out inside Sure Yan's body and flashed through his body like an electric current. In the howls, Sure Yan managed to break through the blue curtain. Boom! A huge roar came, and the big blue curtain, made from the 4 smaller ones, exploded into blue light spots. Sure Yan smiled cunningly and coldly, and rushed into one and thrust his into the warrior contained within. Pooh! Sure Yan's was thrust into the eyes of the warrior entangled in the field. His eyes turned into 2 blood holes, and even his brain could be seen. He died instantly. Sure Yan moved swiftly, crossing into the other 2 fields. Pooh! 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 The other 3 warriors were also bleeding from their eyes and died in the same way in a very short time. The suddenly contracted. The last dark world warrior sitting on the ground was terrified and hurriedly tried to escape. "Do you really think you can run away?" Sure Yan laughed coldly while he flashed to the warrior and stabbed him in the back. His arm went right through the man's heart. Right now, all the 5 dark world warriors were killed. Covered in blood, Sure Yan stood beside the 5 corpses, looking content. He was enjoying the negative energy flowing out from them. Soon, the 5 body dried up, while Sure Yan's meridians were filled with profound chi and his desire for blood surged. Without any attempt to suppress the effects, Sure Yan kept activated while his desire to kill was strengthened. He walked to the heart area. Half an hour later, another 2 warriors of the second sky of the nascent realm encountered him. Without uttering any word, Sure Yan dashed over with a hideous face. Under the bloodthirsty effects of, he killed the 2 warriors easily and continued his journey. 12 suddenly flew up from a deep hole ahead when they saw Shi Yan. Shi Yan chuckled coldly, but in a happy mood. He shifted his swirls, and a huge attraction force came into being. The 12 were eventually swallowed by Shi Yan's swirls and turned into qi. All sorts of negative energy was purifying and gushing out of Shi Yan's meridians. Ignoring the abnormal state of his body, Shi Yan kept advancing. All along the way, Shi Yan became a god of slaughter as he killed instantly as long as he saw a Dark World warrior. The Dark World warriors in this area were mostly at the third sky of the nascent realm or the first or second sky of the human realm. They couldn't compete with Shi Yan and were all killed by him. All along the way, Shi Yan killed 21 Dark World warriors, absorbed 65 Sha, and finally reached the right shoulder of the stone statue. Mu Hui's figure suddenly popped out from a deep hole ahead. Beside him stood 3 Dark World warriors of the third sky of the human realm. Inside the deep hole, 3 destroyed mud dragons were wriggling, trying to reconstruct their bodies. Mu Hui frowned, and a slight resignation flashed across his odd face. These things are too tough and can't be killed. There are hundreds of them in every deep hole which keeps consuming my profound qi. Young master, someone's there. A Dark World warrior pointed to Shi Yan. Shi Yan was surrounded by white smoke and a murderous air boiled around him. The blood on him turned into blood cocoons while he smiled a bloody smile. It's you. Mu Hui was surprised and recognized he was Shi Yan, who always stood beside Han Feng and Kulong. While Mu Hui was in the Yin Valley, he had observed but didn't pay much attention to Shi Yan. Rather, he was more focused on the experts like Zhua, Qi, and Xia Xan Yan. Since Shi Yan was only at the first sky of the human realm, Mu Hui never took him seriously. Seeing Shi Yan approaching with a murderous air, Mu Hui was perplexed, not knowing what happened to Shi Yan. Young master, we have to kill whoever we meet. That warrior wore a plain expression. The earlier we kill one, the earlier we have less adversaries. The mistress of the Dark World has ordered that we even have to kill Bai Ming Su if we met him. One of you stay and take care of him. The rest follow me. Mu Hui nodded and ordered, then turned to walk ahead. 2 warriors followed Mu Hui quietly and left at once. That talkative guy stayed there, looking at Shi Yan coldly. You have bad luck. Bad luck? Shi Yan laughed wildly. Actually, I have rather good luck. Really good. You Dark World warriors fed me well. I have killed 21 Dark World warriors, and you will be my 22nd. Just then, Shi Yan rushed towards him. 2 minutes later, the talkative warrior turned into a dry, dead body. His head and body separated. Shi Yan sucked up his negative energy and continued to run up. 10 minutes later, Shi Yan saw Mu Hui and the other 2 warriors again. What, Li Tuo was killed by you? Mu Hui then took Shi Yan seriously, and his face turned dignified. A first sky of the human realm killed Li Tuo, who was at the third sky. It seems you are something. Shi Yan didn't answer, but smiled coldly. His desire for blood was increasing rapidly as he walked towards Mu Hui step by step. Mu Hui was at the third sky of the human realm, but since he had a martial spirit and trained in high-class martial skills, he was more capable than the average warrior of his level. Shi Yan approached him step by step, but although he looked vicious and insane, he was actually cool-minded. After 5 steps, he acutely perceived that Mu Hui was a formidable adversary. You are already dead. Mu Hui stared at him and yelled, You are already dead. The 4 words struck into Shi Yan's mind like some mysterious incantation. An astounding power suddenly exploded in Shi Yan's mind. The 4 words conquered his perception and stopped all his thoughts. Kill him. So bored. Mu Hui ordered indifferently and shook his head before he walked forward quickly. The two warriors walked toward Shi Yan with dull expressions and stabbed Shi Yan with the swords in their hands. Dang! Dang! The sound of metal clashing came from Shi Yan's chest again. The two warriors' faces changed, and they started to trigger more profound qi in their swords, then raised them to stab Shi Yan's eyes. The strong strikes on his chest suddenly woke him up from his confused state. In his eyes, two tips of sharp swords were expanding slowly. Surprised, Shi Yan shifted his head and the sword slipped past his temple. He could feel the coldness on the swords clearly. Bang! Bang! A boiling negative energy exploded from Shi Yan's shoulders. Two bunches of pale light delved into the two warriors' bodies in an instant. Struck by the negative energy, the two warriors felt like they were being dragged into an endless blood sea and were being eaten by thousands of ghosts. They were dumbstruck. Pooh! Pooh! 5 bloody holes appeared on their necks, and blood came gushing out. Shi Yan looked on coldly as he tossed the blood on his fingers, absorbed the profound qi in them. He coldly glanced at Mu Hui, who was moving, and dashed forward. Ah! Chapter 97 Grind. Chapter 97 Grind. Shi Yan appeared again. This time, Mu Hui's expression became serious, and his seductive eyes flickered with some coldness. He bitterly watched Shi Yan, who was walking towards him step by step. 3 human realm warriors were individually killed by Shi Yan, especially the last 2, who died after he used his soul martial spirit on Shi Yan. You're not bad. Mu Hui slowly took a deep breath. The result is still going to be the same, though. You will still die in my hands. Shi Yan's expression was slightly ferocious. The negative energies in all of his meridians were churning like waves, and wisps of pale, white fog covered his whole body. The different negative emotions were rampaging throughout his body. These violent and murderous thoughts formed a dominating will around his body. The will was like an evil spirit that could destroy everything in its path. However, his mentality was clear and calm as ever. Under the conditions of, Shi Yan became very sensitive. He could feel the most minuscule details of the different essences in this bizarre world. He could even feel the circulation path of the profound qi in Mu Hui's body. The soul martial spirit. This was the most mysterious kind of martial spirit. Warriors with the soul martial spirit had the most formidable senses, with the power to delude people's minds with their speech. Their insight into the natural energies was also a lot broader than ordinary warriors. What Mu Hui had was precisely the soul martial spirit. Once he breaks into the nirvana realm and forms a sea of knowledge inside his mind, the soul martial spirit would become even stronger. One sentence would have the power to drive people to madness and put them into a situation beyond redemption. Previously, with one sentence from Mu Hui, Shi Yan was put into a suspended dream, in which his body became cold and stiff. If it weren't for the negligence of those 2 dark world warriors, he could have already ended up dead back there. And because of that, this time when Shi Yan sprinted forward, the first thing he did was to securely guard his mind, as he didn't dare give another chance for Mu Hui to use the soul martial spirit to paralyze his mind again. The Shi family's petrification martial spirit Shi is something. It looks like those 2 weren't able to kill you in one shot, and that's what woke you up. Mu Hui looked at the sword gash on the clothes on Shi Yan's chest. His long, thin eyes slightly squinted, and a seductive light suddenly shone from his eyes. That beam of seductive light became brighter and brighter. Then, slowly, Mu Hui's eyes became like bright and dazzling gems under the sun. A flow of deluding mental power was released from those eyes. This mental power was like an invisible storm that suddenly covered the whole area. Lock! Mu Hui shouted. Shi Yan's whole body stiffened, and his eyes became dazed again. The profound qi in his body behaved as if it was frozen and became hard to circulate. Mu Hui raised his right arm and green electric light shot from his 5 fingers, which quickly condensed under his control. Soon, a long knife formed in his hand, shining with a strange green light. The long knife looked like it was real and gave off a dazzling and chilling bright light. Holding there was a confident smile on Mu Hui's lips. He slowly walked towards Shi Yan as if taking a casual stroll. Loop dub! Loop dub! At Shi Yan's chest, the Yin pearls continuously pulsed. Summoned by the strange light spots at the stone statue's heart, the Yin pearls in his meridians became more and more restless. The traumatized Shi Yan suddenly felt a strange movement in the Yin pearls. His soul felt as if it was in an endless, dark abyss. It was sinking quickly, like it was going to be swallowed by the abyss and could never have its own individual thought again. Suddenly, the negative energies fiercely burst from the meridians in his head. Feelings of bloodlust, madness, and hate quickly flowed into the abyss and entered the mind of Shi Yan as it was falling into the dark abyss. Boom! His head suddenly shook, and Shi Yan's degrading mind was forcibly cleared by the negative energies. What? Mu Hui immediately noticed the change. He exclaimed, and the in his hand swung down without hesitation. BZZ, BZZ, BZZ. The air exploded wherever they went, and in its glowing green light, they became thinner and thinner, almost as thin as an onion skin. After Shi Yan was wide awake, he saw the coming straight at him. His heart shook, and without hesitation, he dodged to the left. Pooh! A beam of electric light flashed, and a deep bloody gash appeared on Shi Yan's right arm. What sort of power was affixed to the knife that it was able to break his petrification martial spirit? Shi Yan's expression suddenly changed. Mu Hui's eyes were also full of surprise. His expression became more serious and said, "Not bad, this slash only left a gash and didn't chop your whole arm off." The petrification martial spirit from the Shi family indeed has astonishing defensive powers. Usually when Mu Hui pulled out even disaster realm warriors would avoid it. Not many would go into close combat with Mu Hui when he's holding From Mu Hui's perspective, even though the Shi family's martial spirit was extraordinary, it was still flesh and blood in nature, and shouldn't be able to withstand the energy of the dead spirits. However, one slash didn't sever Shi Yan's arm and only left a mere bloody gash. He was even more surprised than Shi Yan was. Backing away quickly, Shi Yan took in a deep breath and secretly released 3 and tried to incite the at the same time. This was the first time he had used the in combat. The 6 Yin pearls combined their forces, releasing a surge of Yin power that followed along Shi Yan's arm and rushed straight towards the palm of his right hand. A head-sized green light ball quickly formed in his palm. Electric snakes intertwined inside the green light ball, and wisps of chilling evil powers flowed out from inside the ball. It was filled with a dark, cold ambience. Yin power continued to vigorously flow into the light ball. The green light ball became bigger and bigger. In a few seconds, the light ball was already the size of a basin, shooting out green light like a green sun. Mu Hui's expression shook for the first time. "Friend, stop struggling." Mu Hui said the soul martial spirit was like a shock wave, and it struck at Shi Yan's soul again. Blast! Before the soul martial spirit could unleash its effect, Shi Yan suddenly roared. The green light ball in his hand abruptly flew out and smashed at Mu Hui like lightning. Boom! All of a sudden, the green light ball burst out, and wisps of pure Yin power, along with traces of Shi Yan's will, fell towards Mu Hui like raindrops. At the sound of the explosion, Shi Yan's restricted soul was finally pulled out from the dark abyss by the negative energies. Clarity returned to his eyes. On the other side, Mu Hui was doused by the rain-like shower of Yin power. His body suddenly became stiff, and the circulation speed of his profound qi slowed down. The shining clenched in his hand was also flickering. It was also affected by the Yin power formed after the explosion of the green light ball. Move! The three suddenly drifted away from Shuryan's side and silently moved towards Mu Hui. Before Mu Hui could react, Shuryan flew out like a missile. His thin body swiftly fell into one of the and stormed at Mu Hui with his fist. "You're dead meat." A bloody cold glare flickered across Mu Hui's eyes. Mu Hui raised his left hand, and the veins in his hand popped up. His left hand instantly became twice as big and turned a frightening dark green color. An ambience of dead souls came from his hand. Mu Hui raised his hand to strike, and as if it could block the space, smashing towards Shuryan's iron fist head-on. Boom! In the thundering rumble, Shuryan's body was as solid as stone and balanced on the ground. But Mu Hui was completely in shock. His body was forcibly thrown back. The earth-shaking, terrifying power that projected from Shuryan's fist exploded onto Mu Hui's and forcefully knocked Mu Hui away. Shuryan, who was at the first sky of the human realm, with his one punch managed to make Mu Hui, who was at the third sky of the human realm, to lose ground. Under the effect of this punch, which was accompanied by the different negative energies, skyrocketed in power. It was definitely not something that a warrior of the same realm could handle. This was just the beginning of Mu Hui's suffering. Just when he finally managed to steady himself, he suddenly felt like he had sunk into a swamp, and his body rotated uncontrollably. He was directly sucked into a setup by Shuryan. Mu Hui's face suddenly changed. Shuryan grinned, but his eyes were as cold as ice. He fiercely flew out. Crush! Mu Hui roared inside thee, and an enormous flow of spiritual energy suddenly poured into Shuryan's mind. Shuryan's flying body stopped midway and fell to the ground. Mu Hui's expression was grim. The Yin in his hand drew a strange arc, and wisps of dark, cold energy flowed from thee and churned inside the gravitational field. The soul martial spirit was triggered again. Mu Hui kept secretly reminding himself to be calm. He put in all his concentration to feel the power change in the field, trying to figure out a way to escape from it. But there was a spirit-level martial skill after all. Plus, it was also formed with both the negative energies and profound qi. Despite having the soul martial spirit, Mu Hui still couldn't figure out any pattern in a short period of time. The high-speed whirling of the knot only slowed down the flow of his profound qi. It seemed to also weaken the sensitivity of his soul martial spirit. There were already traces of sweat on Mu Hui's forehead. His body kept rotating, but he couldn't figure out the pattern of the... On the other hand, Shuryan only lay on the ground for a moment before the outburst of negative energies dragged him out of the dark abyss again. Shuryan's eyes suddenly became clear again, and he sneered. He stared coldly at the whirling Mu Hui with just a change of his thoughts, he stirred up the Yin power in his body and poured it into the once again. With more power added, the gravitational force became stronger. Just by circulating the negative energies and profound qi that could already forcibly stop a warrior of the same realm. Now that he added Yin power to the field, the power of the surged once again. A flow of chaotic power suddenly burst from the circulation speed of the field doubled. Pooh! Mu Hui spurted out a mouthful of blood, and he felt as if his soul martial spirit was in a meat grinder. A stabbing pain was assaulting his head, and all the profound qi in his body was ground into a mess. His defense became significantly lower too. Shuryan held in his breath to concentrate, and his expression was cold and stern. He used all his will to manipulate the chaos of that was full-blown. The frantic, grinding power violently tore Mu Huey's body. In the field, Mu Huey's whole body was splattered with blood, his flesh torn and exposed. The seductive light in his eyes also slowly dimmed. Dash. Chapter 98. Fattened Up. Chapter 98. Fattened Up. And the Mu Hui was shivering, and the flesh on his body was slowly falling off. At this point, his soul martial spirit was completely useless. He couldn't even let out a roar anymore. And at this moment, Shi Yan entered into his fingers were like a spear, stabbing straight towards Mu Hui's neck. Puchi! Blood sprayed out of Mu Hui's neck like a fountain. His spine broke, and he died tragically in the field. All the profound qi in Mu Hui's body flowed into the 720 meridians in Shi Yan's body. Mu Hui was at the third sky of the human realm, but his profound qi was much richer than other warriors of the same realm. The time it took Shi Yan to absorb all the power in his body was also a few dozen seconds more than with other people. Soon, Mu Hui turned into a dry corpse and fell to the ground lifelessly. Shi Yan's expression was calm. He closed his eyes to feel the profound qi that came from Mu Hui's body. Feeling the changes in his meridians, he slowly sat down on the ground. There was a swelling pain coming from his meridians. The continuous intake of profound qi from many warriors made his meridians sting slightly. The different negative energies kept pounding in his body, agitating his soul. However, this time the backlash in his body was not that fierce and crazy, and he didn't know why. As he calmed down and removed himself from the effects of, Shi Yan realized his whole body was sore. But the overflowing negative energies did not overpower his mentality, nor made him fall into a state of slaughter and chaos. Closing his eyes and calming himself down, he felt the purification of negative energies in his meridians. Shi Yan quietly tried to find the source, a change in his soul. After quite a while, Shi Yan's mind flickered, and there was an answer in his mind. During the fight with Mu Hui, his soul martial spirit occasionally unleashed strange effects and repeatedly tried to pull Shi Yan's soul into an abyss of darkness, to become a captive under the power of his mind. Whenever that happened, the negative energies in Shi Yan's body would suddenly burst out. Those negative energies rushed to the depth of his soul like lightning and forcibly dragged his consciousness out of the dark abyss, letting him escape the shackles of Mu Hui's soul martial spirit instantly. Because of Mu Hui's soul martial spirit, the negative energies broke out again and again, using the dark, evil, negative powers to attack Mu Hui's soul martial spirit. During the clash, the negative energies that should have crumbled Shi Yan's soul were mostly used up fighting against Mu Hui's soul attacks. The violent negative energies should have caused Shi Yan to fall into a state beyond redemption. Yet because of the existence of Mu Hui's soul martial spirit, those negative energies became an aid to defeat Mu Hui's soul attacks. That means the soul martial spirit used by Mu Hui counteracted the negative energies that could have destroyed Shi Yan's mind and helped him recover himself. These string of thoughts rapidly flashed through Shi Yan's mind, and he was correctly able to determine that the reason he didn't face the tremendous backlash from the negative energies was due to it acting as a constraint against Mu Hui's attacks from his soul martial spirit. Deep in his heart, there were hints of violent and murderous thoughts growing, but these thoughts were no longer that intense. Using his strong will, Shi Yan didn't fall into a state of frantic killing. Thinking through these things, he relaxedly sat on the ground and silently started to circulate his profound qi. After some time, the stinging in the meridians of his body suddenly started becoming intense. Under the tearing pain, wisps of pure strange power slowly flowed out of his meridians, forming streams of warm currents in his body. After transforming the profound qi of the many human realm warriors, the extraordinary power that resulted was quite impressive. Most of the power spread throughout Shi Yan's whole body and disappeared into his flesh, bones, meridians, and organs. Only a minority of the extraordinary power gathered in the profound qi in his dantian, making his profound qi much stronger and purer. Shi Yan's heart was calm. He didn't first go and explore the change in his profound qi, but instead he sank his mind into the flesh, bones, and meridians of his body. He could clearly feel that the wisps of mysterious power formed into what was like a magical nutrient, and in a way he couldn't understand, it was slowly nourishing his whole body. During this process, Shi Yan felt like he was bathing in a hot spring. Every pore on his body relaxed, and were all taking in that miraculous nutrient. His body was slowly, silently changing. Those mysterious powers moved around in his meridians, disappearing into his flesh and bones, taking root in his organs and resting in his skull. He digested the information deeply. It was not the petrification martial spirit. Shi Yan's mind was crystal clear. He immediately realized the mysterious power that was nourishing his body was definitely not the petrification martial spirit. It was the immortal martial spirit. A realization popped into his mind, and Shi Yan suddenly opened his eyes. He quickly looked at his right arm. The right arm that was slashed by the had a deep wound, but now the flesh in the wound was slowly wiggling and healing at a visible speed. The flesh and the meridians seemed as if they had a life of their own. Under the watchful eyes of Shi Yan, the wound that was 2 centimeters deep gradually healed bit by bit. The flesh wreathed together and the cells reformed. The wound slowly closed up, forming into a scar, then finally disappeared altogether. 10 minutes. In a mere 10 minutes, the 2-centimeter deep wound had been completely healed and not even a single trace was left. The place at which his right arm was harmed was now as smooth as glass. There was not even a single line, nor a trace of blood. It was as if he was never hurt. Shi Yan moved his arm and realized there wasn't even a single bit of pain. His right arm had no abnormalities whatsoever and felt same as the left arm. Shi Yan's eyes were bright. His face was irrepressibly ecstatic. In a span of 10 minutes, such a deep wound was healed to its original state. There was no pain and no discomfort. When did his immortal martial spirit become so impressive? Shi Yan clearly remembered that his recovery speed back then was definitely not this fast. Back then, even if his wound had been healed, he would still feel some discomfort and some pain. He would need more than half a day for a wound that size to be completely healed. This time it was only 10 minutes. The immortal martial spirit has reached a new stage. After a short while, Shi Yan quickly and keenly grasped the key point. The magical upgrade of the petrification martial spirit reminded him, and made him realize that after consuming so much profound qi, those extraordinary powers activated the immortal martial spirit, just like how it did with the petrification martial spirit. And now the immortal martial spirit had entered a new stage. No wonder all those extraordinary powers mostly flowed into his flesh, meridians, bones, and organs. Turns out this time it was the nourishing his immortal martial spirit. Now everything was clear. Shi Yan's expression was full of joy. He seriously felt the changes in his body. Then after a while he finally calmed down and continued to sit there and circulate his profound qi. The profound qi in his dantian had also absorbed a part of that extraordinary power. Now, under the shifting of his thoughts, the pure profound qi slowly flowed along all the meridians in his body. Every time after completing a full cycle, the cluster of the most pristine profound qi in his dantian became more refined. Slowly, the refined body of profound qi turned into what was like a bright light ball. With every circulation cycle, the size of the light ball became smaller, but the power it contained grew even more. Shi Yan was delighted again. The change in the profound qi light ball was exactly a special sign of the breakthrough from the first sky of the human realm to the second or third sky. starting from the first sky of the human realm. Every time you reached a new sky, the size of the profound chi light ball in the Danton would become smaller, but the profound chi within would grow stronger in power. This was the process of refinement. Only when you refined over and over again would the impurities in the profound chi light ball be completely cleared. And only then would the profound chi become more and more pure, followed by the strengthening of the power it contains. Realizing that this was the golden opportunity to break from the first sky to the second sky of the human realm, Shi Yan didn't dare to hesitate. He concentrated with all of his will to circulate his profound chi. He repeatedly circulated and refined his profound chi. The impurities in the profound chi lessened, making the profound chi become more and more pure. In that strange space, there was no concept of time. After who knows how long, the profound chi light ball shrunk from the size of a fist to the size of a walnut. However, the concentration of the profound chi was 30% stronger than before. Not only that, the pure profound chi was circulating in his body at a speed twice as fast as before. Under his will, a wisp of profound chi flowed out of his fingertip. It was shining in dazzling white light, and there was a faint, glistening tint in it, like some mysterious crystal. Shi Yan had a joyous look on his face. He looked at the wisp of glistening profound chi, and the smile on his lips slowly widened. Human realm, second sky. This time the warriors from the dark world really fattened him up. Not only did his immortal martial spirit enter into a new stage, he also reached a step further in his martial art realm, and straight up entered the second sky of the human realm. Loop-dub, loop-dub, loop-dub. The Yin pearls from the 3 meridians of Shen-Ke, Tian-Ke, and Yin-Du suddenly started pulsing violently. The pulse rate of the Yin pearls this time was much faster than usual. The summoning power from the heart of the stone statue also grew stronger. Shi Yan's mind flicked. He couldn't help but gaze towards the place where the starlight gathered. He suddenly realized that the light from the starry sky seemed to become disordered. They wandered at that one area like fireflies, but didn't flow into the mysterious place anymore. There was a change. Shi Yan's brows furrowed. From the strange movements of the Yin pearls in his chest and the unusual phenomenon with the stars, he could sense something bad was happening. Loop-dub, 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 loop-dub. The pulsing of the Yin pearls were becoming even more lively, as if they were urging him to quickly hurry to that area. There seemed to be something anxiously waiting for him. Boom, boom. A loud, thundering sound, even when it was 1,000 li away, still reached here resiliently from that place. The 3 meridians of Shen-Ke, Tian-Ke, and Yin-Du suddenly stung in pain. He felt as if someone was attacking his meridians. His body was indescribably weird. Without hesitation, Shi Yan took in a deep breath, sprinted, and rushed to that place with his fastest speed. Chapter 99. But I want to kill you. Chapter 99. But I want to kill you. At the heart of the stone statue, in a huge deep hole, starlight was shining like fireworms. The deep hole was not made of stone, but it contained a red crystal with a black spot moving on its surface, like a star. The heart-shaped red crystal was floating in the center of the hole, and light from the edges of the hole was shooting into the crystal. The red crystal was so clear and beautiful and had a mysterious power buried inside it. It was like staring at the starry sky when one looked at that crystal. The heart-shaped crystal was as large as a fist, as if it was a big light spot in the hole, although it was sending out dazzling lights and overwhelming energy. On the wall of the hole, dense bunches of dazzling lights flashed into the red crystal and covered the glittering crystal like a natural shield. Off to the side of the deep hole, Bai Ming-Se looked indifferent, and the 3 warriors were staring at the crystal in surprise. Up in the sky, the massive star river pattern projected its light onto the crystal and drifted by slowly. Every warrior could feel the mysterious energy from that crystal, as if it had the ability to concentrate all the power from the stars. It was attracting every warrior. No matter if it was Bai Ming Su or the 3 Dark World Warriors, they all stared at the crystal greedily. Why hasn't the young master arrived? This mysterious crystal will be taken by Bai Ming Su. A Dark World Warrior at the first sky of the Disaster Realm said coldly. His face looked weird in the light of the crystal. The other 2 warriors of the 3rd sky of the human realm were standing separately by his side, keeping watch for Mu Hui, who could show up any second. Bai Ming stretched out his left hand again, and blue flames flew out. The blue flames flew up into the sky and turned into a huge blue hand, projecting onto the crystal. Boom! The light shield on the crystal produced a huge, deafening sound and blocked Bai Ming's huge hand made from his polar ice flame martial spirit. The huge blue hand shattered as soon as it touched the light shield. Bunches of blue flames turned into small flames and shot above the light shield. Gradually, it turned back into a huge blue hand again. Bai Ming didn't give up as he triggered his polar ice flame martial spirit again. Boom! The light shield defended again, shattering Bai Ming's polar ice flame martial spirit and turning it back to blue flames. Under Bai Ming's consistent attacks, the light shield was twisted and squeezed like a balloon, causing it to withdraw into the crystal a bit. Bai Ming's polar ice flame martial spirit had an icy air which could freeze everything. Every time the huge hand touched the light shield, the icy air would permeate into it. After several times, the defensive power of the light shield became weaker. A secret delight flashed in Bai Ming's eyes. Bang! 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 Under the 3 warriors' eyes, Bai Ming Su operated his polar ice flame martial spirit again and again to seize that crystal, permeating the icy air into the light shield to decrease its defensive power. This is bad. The Disaster Realm warrior changed his expression as he said in a low voice, Bai Ming Su will get the crystal soon if he is not disturbed. Our young master will be too late. The Lord and Mistress of the Dark World would be angry if Bai Ming Su got this crystal. What should we do now? Stop Bai Ming Su. The guy ordered and operated his right away. Just as Bai Ming Su's blue hand tried to catch the crystal, that showed up and was thrust into the blue hand. Chi chi chi. As soon as it touched the blue hand, the claw slowed down and sent out dim blue light. It was suppressed by the polar ice flame. Seeing the situation deteriorate, the other 2 warriors took action as well. Flew toward Bai Ming Su. Bai Ming Su's face turned icy as he said coldly, "You finally can't wait." Immediately, Bai Ming Su vanished into the air. The next moment, Bai Ming Su appeared right beside them, and the polar ice flame turned into small bunches of flames and tried to wrap up the 3 warriors. The 3 were terrified and soon worked together to fight against Bai Ming Su. Bai Ming Su yelled and vanished again. Bang! A warrior of the 3rd sky of the human realm fell to the ground on his back. Then Bai Ming Su showed a cold smile. You guys want to compete with me? Bunches of blue flames crossed by the frozen man who died quickly. Bai Ming Su yelled again and appeared behind another warrior and patted his head. Pa! That guy's head exploded and he died instantly. The last Disaster Realm warrior sat down in terror and tried to trigger more. Green needle-like thorns came out from his body and shot in all directions. You are a Disaster Realm warrior, but you are not favored by God, for you don't have a martial spirit. Bai Ming Su smirked. An ice wall coagulated from polar ice flames appeared in front of him, and the thorns were blocked. The Disaster Realm warrior shifted his face. Without hesitation, he continued to trigger his thorns, which shot in all directions. He knew that Bai Ming Su has the teleport martial spirit, so he couldn't shoot his thorns in only one direction, although it consumed much of his profound chi. He wanted to buy more time for Mu Hui to arrive. Unfortunately, he didn't know that Mu Hui had already been killed by Shi Yan. Standing behind the ice wall, Bai Ming-su was not in a hurry. He watched that warrior like a cat watching a mouse. I would like to see how long you can last. He couldn't endure for long. 3 minutes later, his thorns became less and less. To trigger the cost a lot of profound qi. Although the thorns were powerful, it consumed much profound qi. Therefore, he realized that his profound qi was about to run out. Why hadn't the young master arrived? That man looked around quickly and became more and more panicked. You won't meet him. Knowing he was waiting for Mu Hui, Bai Ming-su said indifferently, because you are going to die. Then Bai Ming-su teleported again. This time his body turned into hard ice and approached the warrior through the thorns. Under that guy's horrified eyes, the ice surrounding Bai Ming-su's body expanded and he was covered by the polar ice flame. Cack cack! His body froze quickly and became an ice corpse. His terrified expression was also frozen on his face. Bai Ming-su raised his leg and kicked the man with a disappointed face. Pa! The frozen warrior was smashed into several blocks of ice. His body was shattered. Bai Ming-su walked at a leisure pace towards the deep hole and frowned as he looked at the floating crystal. It's finally quiet. Ta. Just then, light steps came from afar. Bai Ming-su frowned with an annoyed face. Too annoying. These people from the dark world. It's like they won't even disappear. Turning his head back, Bai Ming-su looked to the direction where the footsteps came from. Bai Ming-su wondered, and a smirk climbed up his mouth. Well, how surprising that this boy is still alive. The Dark World warriors are all crap. Shi Yan stopped his steps and stared at Bai Ming-su, who looked gloomy. Shi Yan, it's really lucky for you to live till now. Bai Ming-su beamed. We are both from the Merchant Union, the 5 big families, so we could be friends in the future. Therefore, I don't want to kill you. Leave now, and I can pretend that I've never seen you here. You don't want to kill me? Shi Yan beamed. No, leave, before I change my mind. Bai Ming-su nodded. But I want to kill you. With a smile in his corner of his mouth, Shi Yan's eyes still showed coldness as he replied, I have waited for too long. Bai Ming was surprised at first. Then he pulled himself together and said, so audacious. Never mind, it won't take much time to kill you. And the Shi family will lose hope if I kill you. My grandpa will like it. As he was talking, Bai Ming walked slowly toward him without using his teleport. Tada! Tada! Just then, steps came from afar again. Before long, Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan ran in this direction in worry. As they arrived, they didn't even look at Shi Yan, instead focusing on Bai Ming-su. Mu Yu Dai asked happily, Young Master Bai Ming, you've arrived. Bai Ming-su bowed a little and nodded to them with a smile. Yeah, I've been here for quite a while. Also, I have cleaned some trash from the dark world to avoid troubles later. Well, you haven't cleaned up this trouble, Shi Yan stated indifferently, appearing somewhat bored. You. Hee, you are far from able to cause me trouble. Bai Ming-su scorned. It's no harder to kill you than it is to kill an ant. I'm waiting. Chapter 100 Endure. Chapter 100 Endure. The big Chapter 100. And as a big thank you to our readers, look out for 5 bonus chapters coming soon. After Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan arrived, they said hello to Bai Ming-su first, and then were attracted by the floating crystal in the deep hole. They looked excited at the sight of the shining crystal and could clearly sense the mysterious energy from it. Every warrior was able to tell that this crystal was extraordinary. Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan had suffered a lot to get here. They fought against the Dark World warriors, Flaming Stone Men, Een Sha, and Mud Dragons for the big chance here. As for Shi Yan, they just glanced at him once and turned away. In arrogance, Bai Ming Su walked over to Shi Yan step by step without using his teleport martial spirit. Shi Yan stood still, seemingly waiting for Bai Ming Su to take action. He secretly activated his petrification martial spirit, and his body turned dark brown. Silently, Shi Yan blended his Yin power and profound qi, producing three. Controlled by his will, the three fields gradually separated. He had seen Bai Ming Su's teleport martial spirit, and he knew it was a fierce martial spirit through Hanzhong. The three were prepared as a counter for the teleport martial spirit. Don't blame me since you seek your death yourself. Bai Ming Su raised his left hand as he got within 10 meters of Shi Yan. Blue polar ice flame appeared in his palm. As he threw out his arm, the blue flame became an ice bird which flew in the sky and left a graceful blue trail. That ice bird was so vivid that even the feathers on its head could be clearly seen. It was breathing blue flames from its mouth on its ice-cold face. Bai Ming still looked on coldly with contempt in his eyes. For him, it wasn't too much effort to kill Shi Yan. Just as the ice bird flew near him, a cold light flashed across Shi Yan's eyes. A huge green light ball filled with dense Yin Qi suddenly shot out from his chest, and it was intertwined with electricity and Yin power. Boom! The green light ball struck the ice bird and gave off thunder. Dazzling blue and green light exploded like fireworks, while the green light ball and the ice bird cracked at the same time, turning into blue and green light spots. Bai Ming Su frowned in surprise and nodded slowly while gazing at Shi Yan. Good. You really are something to kill Mo Zhan. After saying that, Bai Ming Su's face turned rigid. More and more polar ice flame was produced by him. He looked like a bunch of ice flames, with blue flames gushing out of his body toward Shi Yan from all directions. A biting cold came from those ice thorns as they approached. Standing there, Shi Yan felt as if the space surrounding him was frozen solid. In the cold air, his profound qi circulated slower. When the cold air came into contact with his skin, his bones and veins were nearly frozen. At that moment, a warm stream suddenly flew out from his blood and bones. His body was defending against the cold automatically. The immortal martial spirit. Shi Yan's eyes lit up as he was secretly delighted. The warm stream went through his whole body like lightning. The next moment, he had gotten rid of the coldness. That happened in just a minute, and the thousands of ice thorns were merely an inch away from him. Yin Wall. A green shield appeared beside him which was made of Yin power, dazzling and horrifying. The Yin Wall was like a huge upside-down bowl which protected him. The Yin Wall was so thin and transparent that Shi Yan could see things 10 meters away clearly. Although there was a mere mortal-level martial skill, it could absorb Yin Qi and turn it into Yin swirls and Yin pearls. There was a martial skill which utilized Yin Qi. With the help of the Yin swirls and Yin pearls, Shi Yan could make Yin Qi into all sorts of defensive weapons. Once the Yin pearls were alive, he would have endless Yin Qi. The Yin Wall was refined from Yin Qi, just as triggering the, once getting hang of the, Shi Yan found it could produce all sorts of defensive methods. This seemed to bring him endless surprises. Boo! Boo! The thorns thrust towards him and landed on the dazzling green Yin Wall, and their power was absorbed in an instant. Bai Ming Su's polar ice flame martial spirit couldn't freeze the Yin Wall, let alone damage Shi Yan, who was under it. Shi Yan hadn't even triggered his negative energy. The Yin Wall, triggered by Yin pearls, seemed to control the polar ice flame martial spirit. Nonetheless, he still felt that the Yin Qi light spots were decreasing quickly. The power of the could only be strengthened by Yin Qi. The Yin power used for his Yin Wall could be consumed and not produced. Without Yin Qi, the Yin power from the Yin pearls wouldn't increase. But this time, Shi Yan had absorbed all the yin qi in the yin field and formed 6 yin pearls inside himself, which would let him play with Bai Ming Su for a long time. Icy thorns thrust on the green wall, and the cold air permeated into it, but this was soon digested by the yin power within. Thus their battle was a deadlock from the very beginning. Bai Ming Su couldn't believe that Shi Yan's green wall could bear the coldness from his polar ice flame. To him, Shi Yan could only endure for a few seconds. He didn't know that Shi Yan had advanced to the second sky of the human realm. Thus, he kept producing more polar ice, forming ice thorns and shooting them towards Shi Yan's green shield. Shi Yan had absorbed so much yin qi which had formed 6 powerful yin pearls. He was not afraid of Bai Ming Su at all, even though he was at the disaster realm. Furthermore, Shi Yan hadn't used his negative energy yet. Therefore, he was very willing to continue the battle with Bai Ming Su. Mu Yu Dai and Di Yaolin watched the two curiously. The 2 girls knew how capable Bai Ming Su was. Disaster realm, twin martial spirit, training in the most precious martial skill of the Bai Ming family. Bai Ming Su was at the top of the world. Though at the first sky of the disaster realm, Bai Ming Su could even win against someone of the second sky. He would even have a shot against a third sky warrior. However, while battling with this boy from the Shi family, Bai Ming Su's polar ice flame martial spirit couldn't even break his barrier. That confused Mu Yu Dai and Di Yaolin. Though Shi Yan had made great impression on the 2 girls in the martial competition in the Godstone Square, he was merely a warrior at the third sky of the nascent realm. It had only been 2 months after the martial competition. Shi Yan could reach the first sky of the human realm if he was talented. How could a human realm, first sky warrior survive against Bai Ming Su? Seeing Shi Yan unmoved under Bai Ming Su's attacks, the 2 girls were quite surprised and looked at Shi Yan with confusion in their eyes. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. After half an hour, the yin wall which encircled Shi Yan still could not be broken. Shi Yan looked indifferent but patient, happy to continue the fight. Bai Ming Su couldn't stand it anymore. After pondering for a while, Bai Ming Su withdrew his polar ice flame and stopped his attack. He said coldly, "I can't be bothered wasting any more time with you." A strange red and blue sword was slowly taken out by Bai Ming Su. Sky-cracking sword. Mu Yu Dai and Di Yaolin took a deep breath at the same time and looked at Shi Yan in pity, assuming that Shi Yan was about to die for sure. The sky-cracking sword was a spirit-level weapon, which previously belonged to Bai Ming Shang. Bai Ming Shang entered the Earth's core where there were thousands of fire hills and refined it with earth fire and polar ice for 3 years. The sky-cracking sword had 2 colors on it. One half was red and the other half blue. With the help of the sky-cracking sword, Bai Ming Su made his name in Tianyin City and never had an adversary. The sky-cracking sword was sharp, unbreakable, and had the power of earth fire and polar ice. Warriors who were touched by the sky-cracking sword would first freeze, then burn. Mu Yu Dai and Di Yaolin knew how vicious this sky-cracking sword was. Therefore, once the sky-cracking sword was taken out, the 2 girls assumed Shi Yan was going to die for sure. Bai Ming Su yelled and appeared in front of Shi Yan with the sky-cracking sword. He thrust it in the air and it gave out red and blue light. Chi! The yin wall was cut into 2 pieces by the sky-cracking sword. Shi Yan was shocked. He immediately triggered his power and shuttled behind the. Meanwhile, the other 2 flew over suddenly, combining with the first one. The space Shi Yan around was twisted a little, seeming to be squeezed and about to collapse. Standing in the invisible house-like, Shi Yan calmed down, though his eyes grew more vicious while staring at Bai Ming Su. Shi Yan was waiting for Bai Ming Su to trigger his teleport martial spirit again, for him to enter the. Bai Ming Su turned out to not disappoint him, as he triggered his teleport martial spirit another time. Ah! Chapter 101, Identity Exposed. Chapter 101, Identity Exposed. Bai Ming-su rushed into the field created by Yin power and profound chi span naturally, and it could influence a warrior's body functions. As soon as Bai Ming-su broke into the field, he felt it and his expression changed. Inside the field, Bai Ming-su floated in the air and couldn't help but spin endlessly. The first few seconds his head was down, but the next moment his body curled into a ball. He couldn't even balance himself. As the creator, Shi Yan was not influenced by He first observed Bai Ming-su indifferently and then began to take action at once. Boom, boom, bang, bang. Shi Yan dashed toward Bai Ming-su like a dragon. Spreading his arms, he caught Bai Ming-su's waist and kicked him with his knees. Activating Shi Yan shoved his fingers at Bai Ming-su's waist. Ding! Ding! Crisp cracking sounds came from Bai Ming-su's waist. Under his gown, Bai Ming-su wore an armor covered with scales which looked like crystal and sent out cold air. They couldn't break the crystal armor. It only left several holes on Bai Ming-su's gown. As Bai Ming-su span in the field, he was so astonished that he operated his polar ice flame martial spirit again. Suddenly, the crystal armor extended and covered his entire body. In an instant, Bai Ming-su's cheeks were covered with that scaled crystal armor. This armor was a secret defensive weapon and matched Bai Ming-su's polar ice flame martial spirit. Under the effects polar ice flame martial spirit, a massive amount cold air went into the armor and activated it, for there was an icy air pouring out from it. Shi Yan's could not break Bai Ming-su's armor, but they were permeated by his cold air and became more and more stiff. Stuck in the Bai Ming-su was still spinning swiftly. He couldn't stay still and was attacked by Shi Yan. However, under the protection of that crystal armor, Bai Ming-su had no worries at all. He was waiting for a chance to fight back. No. Cold light sparkled in Shi Yan's eyes as he took a deep breath and finally operated the negative energy to trigger. A brutal, bloodthirsty emotion broke out in his body. Looking rigid, Shi Yan was now surrounded by white smoke. Di Yalin's body quivered a little as she looked at Shi Yan in surprise and screamed, "Ding Yan!" Mu Yu Dai's face shifted a little. As she cast her eyes on Shi Yan, her facial expression became complicated. Once Shi Yan activated, his negative energy spewed out and turned into a dense smoke, covering him with a bloodthirsty, brutal, and crazy air. After a glance at this vicious scene, Di Yalin and Mu Yu Dai realized that this boy from the Shi family was exactly Ding Yan. How can it be? Mu Yu Dai shook her head heavily with a complicated face and mumbled, "That's impossible. It must be wrong. They look different, and that Ding Yan was a mere unknown warrior. How could he be the young master of the Shi family? It's impossible." Mu Yu Dai couldn't believe it, nor did she want to believe it. Shi Yan is Ding Yan. Di Yalin and Shi Yan were intimate before, so she intimately knew about Shi Yan's. No matter how Shi Yan's face changed, he was definitely the same person when he operated. Standing there dumbstruck, Mu Yu Dai gazed at Shi Yan and mixed feelings came to her mind. Di Yalin's eyes sparkled and her breasts were floating with her short breaths. Looking at Shi Yan, she suddenly began to worry about him. As she said to Mu Yu Dai, "Xiao Dai, Bai Ming-su is fighting with Ding Yan. How? How can it be like this? I don't want either of them to be hurt." Mu Yu Dai took a deep breath, calmed down, and shook her head. "Do you think you can stop them?" Di Yalin was surprised, but she still said, "We need to try." "You don't know Bai Ming-su." Mu Yu Dai sighed. "He would get anything he wants at any expense. And Ding Yan talked wildly. Bai Ming-su won't spare him." Even if Ding Yan is the young master of the Shi family, he can't compete with Bai Ming-su. The Bai Ming family is more powerful than the Shi family. "No, I'm going to stop them." Di Yalin looked determined and screamed, Ding Yan, stop it! Young Master Biming, stop! Shi Yan could hear Di Yalin scream, clearly, though he didn't make a response. Wisps of negative energy were generated in his meridians, and Shi Yan's power surged. He suddenly triggered and 7 marks appeared and struck Biming Su. Bang! Bang, 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 bang. Biming Su was struck 7 times in succession and was knocked out of the by Shi Yan and flew 50 meters away. Puh! Biming Su spewed out a mouthful of blood, and the bones in his chest were broken. That crystal armor dimmed and couldn't defend against Shi Yan's. After falling to the ground, Biming Su stood up quickly with a pale face and blood on the corner of his mouth. Ding Yan! Di Yalin suddenly screamed, "Stop it! You too stop it!" Biming Su stood up with a hideous face and carried his sky-cracking sword. After wiping the blood on his face, he viciously stared at Shi Yan. "Shi Yan, I will kill you and smash your Shi family." "You." Shi Yan scorned in a rage and licked his lips. "Who do you think you are?" "Ding Yan." Di Yalin screamed again. Mu Yudai began to worry as she remarked, "Ding Yan, you know the Biming family's strength. There's no point making an enemy of Biming Su." Shi Yan took a breath and turned to glance at the 2 girls indifferently. "I don't know you." Then he walked to Biming Su step by step. Every step he made, the space around him twisted. As he was moving, there was radiating out a suppressing power. As long as he was within the Shi Yan didn't need to worry about Biming Su's teleport martial spirit, and he was confident that he could torture Biming Su slowly in the field. Biming Su finally learned something. Seeing Shi Yan coming near, Biming Su's face turned cold. Instead of using his teleport martial spirit, he sat down where he stood. The sky-cracking sword rushed out. In the dazzling red and blue light, the sky-cracking sword fell right upon Shi Yan's head. Boom! The sword fell into the field, and there came a strange sound. The red and blue sword shot out bluntly. Inside the field, the sword thorns were flying everywhere with its sharp, murderous power. Z! Z! Sword wounds appeared on Shi Yan's body. The sword thorns from the sky-cracking sword were extremely sharp, and like Mu Hui's, they broke through Shi Yan's petrification martial spirit. Spirit-level weapon. Extraordinary. Shi Yan was shocked, then moved out from the field while covered in blood, feeling hot pain on his body. Dozens of sword wounds were left on Shi Yan by Biming Su's sky-cracking sword, every one of which was an inch deep. Teleport. Biming Su suddenly appeared beside Shi Yan as he injected his polar ice flame martial spirit into his fist and punched Shi Yan in the back. Boom! Shi Yan dashed forward about 10 meters and spewed out a mouthful of blood. Before he managed to stabilize himself, Shi Yan operated his Yin power and swiftly created a new Yin wall. As soon as the Yin wall was formed, Shi Yan found that Biming Su was already in front of him and was staring at him with the polar ice flame in his hand. If it had not been for Shi Yan refining the Yin wall at his fastest speed, Biming Su would have frozen him using his polar ice flame and blasted him into pieces. Back! Biming Su yelled, stretched out his hand, and watched as the sky-cracking sword flew back into his hand like lightning. Carrying the sky-cracking sword, Biming Su smirked cunningly. "Let me see how you will fight back." Shi Yan looked gloomy, realizing that that was only effective on living things, but not on the sky-cracking sword. If he stayed in the Biming Su could control the sky-cracking sword and attack him. If he got out of the field, Biming Su could approach and attack him using his teleport martial spirit. Troublesome. Biming Su possessed twin martial spirits and many secret weapons. He had the sword to attack and the armor to defend. "Master Su, don't kill him. He is my friend," Di Yalin suddenly cried as she realized Shi Yan was in a bad situation. "Young master, could you spare him for my sake?" Mu Yu Dai hesitated and also tried to persuade him. Bai Ming Su was not moved by that, as he shook his head and said calmly, "I would usually say yes to everything you ask for." And if Shi Yan hadn't showed his horrifying ability today, I would spare him. But now it's impossible. He is a human realm warrior, yet has so many secret martial skills, which threatens my life. And with him, the Shi family will have the chance to surpass my family. So he has to die. After the speech, Bai Ming Su didn't hesitate anymore, and projected his sword toward Shi Yan's head directly. The sky-cracking sword flew like a shooting star with 10-meter sword thorns trailing it. The thorns exploded and fell in all directions, blocking the space. "Ding Yen!" Di Yalan cried in a miserable voice. "Humph!" Mu Yu Dai shook her head softly and pain crossed her eyes. Shi Yan uttered the 6 words. Among the sword thorns, Shi Yan looked determined without fear in his eyes. Under Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan's eyes, Shi Yan's right hand kept expanding while his left hand became thinner and thinner. At the same time, 2 strings of different horrible energy exploded from both his arms. Chapter 102. Nothing to do with me. Chapter 102. Nothing to do with me. Life energy was circulating in his right arm and death energy was circulating in his left. The 2 utterly different powers of life and death projected out of his left and right arms. Facing the glaring sword light of the sky-cracking sword, Shi Yan, who was in the state, seemed to have incited all of the potential in his body. In the moment of life and death, his 5 senses became unprecedentedly sensitive. The circulation rate of the 2 powers in both his left and right arms was astonishingly high. The right arm swelled up and became twice as big as usual, while the left arm shriveled and shrunk twice as much as under mode. It was like a layer of skin wrapping around the bone, looking very eerie. The patterns on the 2 hands suddenly shot out bright beams of light. The 2 vast surging powers simultaneously shot out from his palms. The palms of his 2 hands separately formed 7 and 7. They flew out at the same time. As soon as A and were formed, they immediately merged into one. In a mere moment, the 7 and the 7 all merged together into each other. That was formed. Boom, 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 boom. The 7 suddenly expanded multiple times. Like 7 shining door panels, they fiercely flew at the oncoming sky-cracking sword. Frightening blasts suddenly exploded, and the fiery red and icy blue luster on the sky-cracking sword abruptly dimmed. An unpredictable, mysterious power suddenly rushed into the sky-cracking sword from the hum, 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 hum. The sky-cracking sword rang in the air and was blown away by the force and kept tumbling in the sky. All of its luster was lost. Bai Ming Su, who was controlling the sky-cracking sword with his mind, suddenly became as pale as a sheet. Blood dripped out of his 7 apertures, and he let out a shrill scream. The sky-cracking sword and his mind corresponded to each other. The heavy damage to the sky-cracking sword had an empathic effect on him, and together both he and the sky-cracking sword were badly injured. For those who control swords with their mind, once the sword itself gets damaged, the owner will also be heavily injured. Clink! After tumbling for a while, the sky-cracking sword finally fell to the ground 100 meters away. Its luster dimmed, and it lost all its spirituality. Bai Ming Su stopped screaming. He kept using his mind to try and summon the sky-cracking sword, but he realized that the sword could not respond. Bai Ming Su was filled with horror, and for the first time, his expression showed a trace of fear. After blasting out, the power in Shi Yan's body was depleted by 1/3, and he also felt quite weak. But when he saw that the sky-cracking sword lose its luster after this one hit, he felt delighted inside and his spirits rose. And when he saw that Bai Ming-su was bleeding out of his 7 apertures, he was even more thrilled. Mu Yu-dai and Di Yalin both blankly stared at Shi Yan. They could not hide the surprise on their faces. Mu Yu-dai even opened her mouth wide, her little hand covering her mouth, and stopped herself from letting out a scream. Shi Yan, who was only in the human realm, fought head-on and was able to blow away the spirit-level weapon, sky-cracking sword, from the disaster realm Bai Ming-su, and he was even able to destroy the spiritual connection in the sky-cracking sword. What is this? Mu Yu-dai was appalled inside. She couldn't believe her eyes. Is this really the boy from the dark forest? Mu Yu-dai suddenly realized that she didn't know Shi Yan anymore. The currently arrogant Shi Yan became more and more unfamiliar in her eyes, such that she didn't even know how to handle her relationship with Shi Yan anymore. Ding Yan! Di Yalin exclaimed. She shouted, "What are you doing?" Mu Yu-dai jumped and also said anxiously, "Ding Yan, don't act recklessly. Bai Ming-shang is here too. If you touch the son of the Bai Ming family, it won't be good for you, nor for the Shi family." Shi Yan's expression was cold. He didn't say a thing and chose to ignore these 2 women. He bound Bai Ming-su using the. Bai Ming-su just sat there unmoving, as he couldn't sense the existence of the. In his moment of carelessness, he was trapped and he couldn't escape the gravitational force of the field. This time, Shi Yan also added negative energy into the. Now the field had 3 completely different forces: Yin power, profound qi, and negative energy. The 3 forces mixed together, increasing the power of the field by more than double. In the new, Bai Ming-su was in an extremely helpless state. The muscles on his face trembled, and within the insane whirling of the field, all the profound qi in his body was bound. Only the polar ice flame's martial spirit remained unaffected by the. It still persistently flowed into the crystal armor and firmly protected Bai Ming-su's body. Shi Yan swiftly flew into the field. He swung up his left arm, and the formed from negative energy suddenly shot out and flew towards Bai Ming-su's head without hesitation. Crack, crack! A crisp fracturing sound came from Bai Ming-su's skull. The devastating, deadly energy in the poured into his head and cut off his life force. Wisps of pure vital energy quickly flowed out of Bai Ming-su's body. Soon, Bai Ming-su was turned into a dried-up corpse, and all of his profound qi was absorbed by Shi Yan. The field disappeared in a flash. Thump! Bai Ming-su's corpse fell to the ground, his eyes still wide open, as if he had died with regrets. He didn't even have time to shout out threats. Once Bai Ming-su died, his body shrank, and the crystal armor on his body was obviously a whole lot looser. Shi Yan took in a deep breath and coldly stripped the crystal armor off of Bai Ming-su's body, bluntly placing it in his backpack. Then he didn't even look at the dazed Mu Yu-dai and Di Yalin, and quickly left, also picking up the dim sky-cracking sword along the way. On Bai Ming-su, these 2 things were the most powerful and left the most powerful impression in his mind. Whether it was the sky-cracking sword or the crystal armor, both were extraordinary treasures. Even if Shi Yan couldn't use them himself, he didn't want to let the 2 girls gain any advantages. Ding Yan, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. Mu Yu-dai said in a traumatized daze. She murmured, Bai Ming-su is like Bai Ming-shang's very own life. You killed Bai Ming-su. That means Bai Ming-shang will not only deal with you, he's going to destroy the whole Shi family. Ding Yan, you made a mistake. You really made a mistake. You're digging your own grave. Bitch! Shi Yan turned his head. He gave her a cold and stern glance and said ruthlessly, If you keep blabbing, I'll kill you too. What did you say? Mu Yu-dai's expression was filled with disbelief. She raised her hand and pointed at Shi Yan and shrieked, Ding Yan, I've saved your life, and this is how you treat me. Shi Yan's face was full of impatience, his eyes were cold, and he swiftly moved to Mu Yu-dai's side. Smack! Shi Yan's hand slapped across Muyu Dai's face and made her stumble back a few steps, leaving a bright red handprint on her face. Bitch! Listen up, I don't owe you anything. If you keep rattling in my ear, I will make you shut up once and for all. Shi Yan coldly gazed at Muyu Dai, whose demeanor was a little insane. He said with a murderous look, "You know how I am. I never give mercy when it comes to killing, and that includes women." Ding Yen! Di Ellen screamed, "How could you hit Xiao Dai?" "You shut up too." Shi Yan sneered and gazed at her with a cold look in his eyes. "When we parted our ways in the stone woods, we broke off all relations. You have no right to talk crap about me. Don't think for a moment that there's something between us just because I fucked you. You know exactly what you gained from me. I owe you nothing." Di Allen's delicate body shook as she looked at the ruthless Shi Yan, and she could only feel as if she were in an ice cave. Both her heart and her body were frozen solid. Di Allen tightly clenched her teeth, and she tried hard not to let herself cry, but bright teardrops still appeared in the corner of her eyes. Her heart felt as if it was pierced by a sharp knife, and the pain seeped into her heart. In this moment, Di Allen finally realized how much she cared about this man. Looking at the cold expression on his face, Di Allen finally knew what she had given up for the rest of her life. "Ding Yen, you will regret this. You will definitely regret this." Muyu Dai covered her face and screeched hysterically, "You will definitely regret this. You and the Shi family will all be destroyed by Bai Ming Shang." Smack! Shi Yan was just about to leave, but he turned around and gave another slap to Muyu Dai's face. His expression was dark, and he said in scorn, "Bitch! You think that once you sought refuge in the Bai Ming family, Bai Ming Shang was going to take revenge for you? You're joking. Bai Ming Shang is a fierce and ambitious man. You think he was going to fight to the death with the Dark World for a woman? Do you know why the people of the Dark World are here? Do you know what fate you'll be facing once you walk out of here?" Muyu Dai's pretty face turned pale, and her eyes were filled with desperation. Finally, she made no more sound. She already guessed this possibility, but refused to admit it. Now that Shi Yan mercilessly said it out loud, Muyu Dai finally couldn't ignore her speculation anymore. She felt cold from head to toe, and felt as if all the hard work she put in was just an illusion. "From now on, you both have nothing to do with me." Shi Yan heartlessly glanced at the two girls for the last time, and turned around to walk towards the pit. He said coldly with his back facing the girls, "Don't get in my way, or else you'll share the same fate as Bai Ming Su." Then, Shi Yan slowly walked towards the pit. Di Allen's face was filled with tears and her limbs were frozen, as if the life force in her body was all taken out. Her heart felt as if it was ripped to pieces. The pain pierced through her heart. Muyu Dai's pretty face had a red handprint on it. Her face was full of desperation, and it looked like her life force was also cut off. She stared aimlessly into the sky, as if she didn't know where to go from here. She had lost her way. "Xiao Dai, we've really made a mistake." Di Allen's voice choked as she covered her face and quietly sobbed. "Woo!" Muyu Dai couldn't hold it in anymore. She finally covered her face and cried. She cried in the most heartbreaking of ways, as if she wanted to cry out all the sadness in her heart. Shi Yan stood at where the pit was, his expression cold, as if he didn't hear the weeping of the two girls at all. He only furrowed his brows and looked forward. Lube-dub, lube-dub, lube-dub. The Yin pearls in the Shun K, Tian K, and Yin Du meridians pulsed even more merrily. After coming here, the Yin pearls had been extremely active. Looking at the floating, glistening crystal, Shi Yan realized this was what was summoning the Yin pearls. The mysterious power coming out of the crystal must have been resonating with the Yin pearls at a distance. The two sides seemed to have some sort of mysterious connection. However, standing outside the pit, Shi Yan didn't know where to start. He had no idea how to get his hands on the crystal. He pondered for a moment, then tried to stir the yin swirls, forming yin qi in his palm. The yin qi slowly gathered and flew out of Shi Yan's palm, forming into a giant hand made of dark green light, which grabbed at that crystal from far away. Wisps of strange yin power were released from the 6 yin pearls. The yin power was like invisible strands of thread that seemed to also flow into the crystal. The dark, glowing green hand slowly pressed down and steadily landed on the light shield of the crystal. Pop! Suddenly, a slit cracked open in the light shield. The barrier that kept defying Biming's polar ice flames now softened down by itself and opened up wide for Shi Yan's dark, glowing hand. The crystal suddenly gave off a beautiful, dazzling light and slowly floated towards that big, dark, glowing hand. Chapter 103 The Space Collapses. Chapter 103 The Space Collapses. The starlight pervaded the sky and fell like raindrops, gathering on the shiny crystal at the heart of the stone statue. At that time, the starlight in the crystal was flowing in its pathway, shiny and captivating. The crystal floated up into the sky, slowly moving towards the huge black hand made of yin qi. Shi Yan was rather happy, and immediately began to control the crystal with his will, making it approach him. Dragged by the yin qi hand, the crystal finally flew out of the deep hole and flew over near Shi Yan. Bang, bang, bang. Great thunder came out from the deep hole. After the crystal left the hole, the crystal wall exploded and broke into pieces, giving off a dazzling light. The starlight in the sky dimmed at once in comparison. As the deep hole collapsed, the mysterious star river pattern in the sky started moving slowly as it turned vague, while the yin qi, poisonous gas, and bunches of flame clouds began to diffuse. Looking down from the sky, one would find that the mountain-like stone statue had begun to crack and dissolve. At the same time, between the statue's heels, the group of Qi Xiao and Bai Mingshang could clearly feel the abnormalities occurring within the space, and the power that was constraining them began to decrease. Their expressions changed, and they immediately tried to operate their energy to free themselves from their constraints. They were trapped for a long time and had failed to escape after many ties, so they finally quietened down. But seeing that the space was going to collapse and the restrictive power was decreasing, they had to try one more time. The 2 legs of the statue were cracking while the suppressive power in the heels was weakening. As the pressure from the stone statue was getting weaker and weaker, Qi Xiao and Bai Mingshang's struggle took effect as the stone on the heels began to crack. If it went on like this, they could get out from under the heels in a short time. At the heart of the stone statue, the deep hole collapsed and the crystal wall exploded, while the odd, dazzling light from the crystal wall turned colorful and slowly disappeared. Both the crystal wall and the light existed to protect that crystal, so when the crystal flew out, their mission was complete. That huge black hand approached with the crystal, and it glittered with a dazzling starry light above Shi Yan's head. That crystal was like the essence of shooting stars, containing mysterious powers from the stars. Looking up at the crystal, Shi Yan frowned and began to think how to take that crystal. Frowning, Shi Yan thought for quite a while and guessed that the yin pearl had some connection with the crystal, so he would be able to touch the crystal. Shi Yan couldn't help but stretch out his hand to catch the crystal floating above his head. Boom! The crystal suddenly broke and gave off numerous lights which burrowed into Shi Yan's body. Wisps of cool starlight filled with mysterious star power went into Shi Yan's pores and concentrated themselves at his heart. Bang, 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 bang. Dull drum beats came from Shi Yan's heart. In the dazzling starlight, Shi Yan's heart strangely changed. The starlight rooted itself in Shi Yan's heart and became a part of it. In an instant, Shi Yan's heart changed as if it had turned into the crystal and began to sparkle. After a while, His heart went back to normal. The starlight integrated into Shiryan's heart and gave off a cool air. Bang, bang, bang. Horrible blasts came from the heels. The group of Sky Realm warriors worked together and finally shattered the heels to escape. Those Sky Realm experts flew up into the sky one after another to see what was happening above. The odd space collapsed, and the mysterious star river produced a light pillar. The light pillar fell from the sky and struck Shiryan. Shiryan, who was standing in the deep hole, disappeared at once. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. That odd space slowly cracked like a broken mirror. After the crystal left, that broad stone statue cracked piece by piece and turned into dust. Between the endless booms, the scenes shifted quickly. The group, including Qi Xiao, felt that they walked out from a broken mirror. From the cracks in the collapsed space, they could see the Yin Valley. In the Yin Valley, one after another cracks appeared in the sky, filled with colorful lightning. Some cracks looked like star rivers falling from the sky. Xenyan looked indifferent and mumbled, "It's been 7 days. We finally get there. Miss, do you think the original seal of the martial spirit was within? We will know when Shiryan comes out." Xenyan looked indifferent as she said, "But I don't think he will appear in the Yin Valley." Why? That old guy planned everything. If that guy was still capable, maybe he could send him to the endless sea. However, looking at the collapsing space, that old guy must have used much of his energy creating all this. I guess he could only send Shiryan to somewhere far off in the dead swamp to make him comfortable for a short time. What should we do? Let's go. Leave the Yin Valley and head off into the dead swamp. Miss, do we need to kill him when we find him? Find him first. The three, including Xia Xanyan, had witnessed the changes in the Yin Valley, and they had foreseen the result. So they left the Yin Valley quietly without informing Zwishur. Half an hour later, after Xia Xanyan had left, some human figures suddenly showed up from one of the cracks in the sky. Bang, bang, bang. Warriors below the Sky Realm all fell from the sky, and their heads were spinning. People at the lower realms, like Muyu Dai and Dialin, were bleeding heavily from their mouths and looked miserable. Looking bitter, Han Feng and Kulong cried out immediately after they stood up, "Young master! Young master!" Bai Mingshang, Qi Xiao, Zhua Qi, and the Lord of the Dark World, who were at the Sky Realm, floated in the sky and gradually landed while looking around in confusion. "Su!" Bai Mingshang roared and stared at Yin Kuei and Jioshan. "Where is my Su?" Yin Kuei and Jioshan had also been trapped under the statue's heel, but not with Bai Mingshang, so Bai Mingshang didn't see them in that odd space. Young master entered too. I don't know where he is now. Yin Kuei looked gloomy and anxious. We were trapped by the stone statue as soon as we entered it, and we found the chance to escape only when the odd space collapsed. Su! Su! Bai Mingshang roared and asked in haste, "Where are you?" Mu Hui. The Lord of the Dark World's face changed as he couldn't find Mu Hui and began to shout along with Bai Mingshang. Since their bellows echoed through the Yin field, Bai Mingshang and Mu Hui could hear them once they returned to the Yin field. However, they received no response. Su is still inside. Bai Mingshang turned pale and looked up into the sky to find that the cracks had mysteriously closed somehow. The space had entirely collapsed. In a glance, Bai Mingshang realized this cruel reality. His face looked horrifying like an irritated demon beast, while polar ice flame came out from his eyes. "Xiao Dai, where is Su?" With polar ice flame in his eyes, Bai Mingshang looked to Muyu Dai in a rage. Muyu Dai looked dumb under Bai Mingshang's terrifying eyes, unable to speak. Bai Mingshang was impatient and his eyes glittered. He stretched out his hand to Muyu Dai, and a bunch of blue light flew into Muyu Dai's body. "Where is Su?" Bai Mingshang asked again. As soon as Muyu Dai was struck by Bai Mingshang's blue light, Her face turned dumb, and she lost consciousness as she whispered, "He was killed by Shi Yan." Yalin tried to scream, but as she saw Mu Yu Dai's abnormal look, she kept silent. "Shi Yan!" Bai Ming Shang howled with all his veins protruding. He treasured Bai Ming Su, who had a twin martial spirit, as the heir of Bai Ming family and placed high hopes on him. Now that Bai Ming Su had been killed, Bai Ming Shang was furious. Bunches of polar ice flames flew out like clouds and tried to cover Han Feng and Kulong. Kulong was close to Bai Ming Shang, so he was immediately wrapped by the polar ice flame and turned into an ice statue before exploding. Han Feng's face changed, and after a quiver, he disappeared. "I will shatter your Shi family." Bai Ming Shang bellowed like a beast and dashed toward Han Feng. "Teacher!" Zhuo Shi cried in fear. Qi Shao frowned and sighed. He fought back unwillingly by refining bunches of dense fog which wrapped Bai Ming Shang's polar ice flame. Bai Ming Shang live and let live. He knew it would be a long battle if he fought with Bai Ming Shang. After a little hesitation, he wrapped Bai Ming Shang's polar ice flame martial spirit and yelled, "Han Feng, let's go!" Han Feng dashed toward the far shore of the Yin field like a ghost without any hesitation. At that time, he knew Bai Ming Shang wouldn't stop, so he had to leave as quickly as possible. He had to return to the Shi family alive and send them a message to avoid a massacre. "Qi Shao, how dare you stop me?" Bai Ming Shang hollowed as if going crazy. "I'm going to kill whoever tries to stop me today." "Hey, that girl named Mu, have you seen my disciple Mu Hui?" The Lord of the Dark World asked Mu Yu Dai in a weird voice. He was killed by Shi Yan too. All were killed. All. Mu Yu Dai was still unconscious, not knowing what she was talking about. Zhou Zi's face turned pale, and with the 9 angry flame in his eyes, he flew up into the sky and dashed out of the dead swamp. A strong will was suddenly released from his body, which expanded in all directions. He had kind of figured out where Shi Yan was. Meanwhile, in a secluded area in the Yin Valley, a black shadow was leaving swiftly. Dash! Chapter 104, Great Disaster. Chapter 104, Great Disaster. Sponsored by E. Espinoza. Dash. In the Yin Valley, Zhou Zi, he flew into midair as he spread out his soul consciousness in all directions. He also slowly started moving away from the Yin Valley. Bai Ming Shang's expression was ferocious. He was just about to fight to the death with Qi Shao, but suddenly realized that Zhou Zi, he silently rose into the air. His mind clicked, as he suddenly remembered what he saw in that strange space, and he also realized that Shi Yan might be somewhere nearby. "Qi Shao, I will deal with you sooner or later." Bai Ming Shang clenched his teeth and his expression was grim, but he didn't attack again. He withdrew his polar ice flame martial spirit and flew into the sky, spreading out his soul consciousness to search for traces of Shi Yan. "In Kuei, Jiushan, you too spread out and search the outer perimeter of the dead swamp. Remember, if you see Shi Yan, don't kill him, I want him alive." Bai Ming Shang shouted with a bone-chilling voice while suspended in midair. Yin Kuei and Jiushan did not hesitate and immediately left the Yin Valley. Within a moment, only Qi Shao, Zhuo Qi, the people from the Zhuo family, plus the absent-minded Mu Yu Dai and Yalin remained in the giant Yin Valley. "Master," Zhuo Shi glared at Qi Shao. "When we came, Grandpa Shi told you to take care of Shi Yan. You're not playing dumb now, are you?" Qi Zhao's expression was full of frustration. He shook his head and sighed. "I already tried to stop Bai Ming Shang, but now there are 2 Sky Realm Masters who want that boy dead. If I forcibly speak out, I will have to face 2 Sky Realm Masters, especially when these 2 are in a very angry state. If I cut in now, I'm afraid that—" "Master, are you scared of them?" Zhuo Shi raised her head and grunted. "Shao Shi." Wu Yunlian suddenly spoke out, and she sighed. Mr. Qi Shao is doing this out of frustration. With his capability, even against 2 Sky Realm warriors, he could easily walk away unharmed. But he's worried for us. Don't you understand? Zhua sure was dazed. Then, after quite a while, she finally murmured, "But what about Shi Yan? If he died, Grandpa Shi would become miserable. There's nothing we can do about it. He can only hope for the best." Wu Yunlian's dark brows were deeply furrowed. She shook her head and said in confusion, "How could it be? How could that brat Shi Yan possibly have killed Bai Mingsu? Bai Mingsu had twin martial spirits and was in the disaster realm. What exactly happened?" Qi Shao looked perplexed as well, but in his mind he secretly guessed that it was because of that strange space. While inside, he clearly saw that a beam of light poured into Shi Yan's body as he was exiting. That light beam caused Shi Yan's body to disappear into thin air, and he suspected that everything was related to that change in the strange space. "Hey!" Qi Shao exclaimed. Suddenly realizing something, he said in surprise, "If there was some sort of treasure inside, then that boy definitely got it. Bai Mingshang and that Sky Realm warrior are hastily trying to find Shi Yan. This must be one of the reasons why. Qi Shao, I gotta go. From now on, you and I are even." At this moment, Zhua Qi suddenly said goodbye to Qi Shao, and without saying anything else, he quickly sprinted out of the Yin field. "Zhua Qi!" Qi Shao yelled. "What?" Zhua Qi turned back and said impatiently, "I know what you're thinking." Qi Shao frowned and said dismissively, "If you really find Shi Yan, then it's fine if you get the thing. But I hope you would spare the boy. Don't take his life." The outer perimeter of the dead swamp was filled by all different sorts of plants. The swamps and the poisonous fog were everywhere. Besides, there were many warriors who ventured into the swamp. Even if Bai Mingshang and Zhou Zi he wanted to find Shi Yan, it would be no easy thing. But it's different for Zhua Qi. He was the master of the outer perimeters of the dead swamp. He could casually come and go in the swamps, control the poisonous fog, and all the demon beasts in the outer perimeter listened to him. If there is anyone who is most likely to find Shi Yan, then it would be Zhua Qi. If that boy does as he's told, then I won't make it hard on him. Zhua Qi sneered, but if he stays ignorant, I will be merciless. Qi Shao, this is none of your business now. You better not get involved. Hatred from 2 Sky Realm masters is no joke. If you want your apprentice to live, then don't give a damn about that boy's life." Then, Zhua Qi suddenly flew out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Later that night, stars filled the night sky and the moon was bright and clear. East of the dead swamp, in the branches of a towering old tree, Shi Yan scowled. He blankly gazed at the starry sky, strange lights flickering in his eyes, mysterious and unpredictable. Inside the strange space, the starlight beam came down from the sky and landed on his body, directly sending him out of that marvelous space and to this place. Once he landed here, just by looking at the poisonous fog not too far away and the swamps that were everywhere, he immediately judged that this was the outer perimeter of the dead swamp. When he just got out, it was still daytime. Shi Yan repeatedly checked his chest, but realized that other than specks of starlight on his heart, there seemed to be nothing else unusual on his body. The only change he could feel was faint starlight drifting down from the sky and slowly gathering at his heart. That was only during the day. At night, when the stars all twinkled from the sky, Shi Yan's heart seemed to have 10 times his current vitality, but his pulse rate became slower instead. However, the power of the stars in the sparkling night sky flew down from the vast starry sky and secretly flowed into his body and into his head. The star power at night was much stronger than the morning. He could deeply feel it. He could very clearly feel that the stars in the sky let out bits of faint star power, but the star power couldn't be seen by the naked eye. The star power that did not form into starlight spots were 100 times weaker, so you couldn't see their light but they truly did exist. He didn't need to do anything, not even focusing his mind. Whether it be day or night, his heart would endlessly absorb the star power without the need for him to focus on gathering it. So after being curious for a while, Shi Yan temporarily stopped paying attention to the change in his heart. The reason why he killed Bai Ming-su was because there was only one crystal. Bai Ming-su wanted it, and he wanted it too. So when he showed his true strength, only one was going to live between him and Bai Ming-su. Shi Yan clearly understood that Bai Ming-su was the future head of the Bai Ming family. He was ruthless and had a lot of foresight. Seeing that Shi Yan was only in the human realm, but with such power, Bai Ming-su wasn't going to let him live any longer, even if he didn't make a move in the strange space. After they got out, Bai Ming-su would use every method possible to try to kill him. Bai Ming-shang would have definitely done the same thing. They will be doing it for the future of the Bai Ming family in order to clear any future threat to the 100 years of supremacy of the Bai Ming family. Regardless if he killed Bai Ming-su or not, Bai Ming-su will never let him go. In that situation, what was there to consider? After killing Bai Ming-su and absorbing all his negative energy into his meridians, deep down he could feel the bloodthirsty, violent thoughts. However, when the starlight beam shone onto him, all the negative emotions that sprouted in his heart were instantly washed away, and it eased his fear of losing control. After his meridians had purified all of the profound qi from Bai Ming-su's body, in the afternoon of that day, some extraordinary powers flowed out. But those powers all flowed towards his heart and were deposited into the countless little starlight spots in his heart, making Shi Yan marvel in delight. Raising his head, he looked into the sky at the countless stars spread above. He could feel the faint star power flowing out from the stars. Shi Yan smiled wryly and shook his head. He closed his eyes to feel around. Realizing that no one else was around, he finally came down from the old tree and continued heading towards the east side of the dead swamp. The Merchant Union was at the south side of Tianjin City. If he wanted to go back to Tianjin City, he should have walked south, but now he was walking east. The east was the direction towards the endless sea. He never planned to return to the Merchant Union at all. Even if Bai Ming-su and Mu Hui hadn't died, but because he obtained the crystal, the Sky Realm Masters in the Yin Valley would not let him go. Shi Yan knew this in his heart. Although the Shi family was one of the great 5 families in the Merchant Union, it had no Sky Realm Master, so it will be hard for them to shield him. If he returned to the Shi family, he would have brought a great disaster onto them, and because of him, the Shi family might be killed off entirely. He knew deep in his heart that he was their true target. From Xia Xianyan, he had heard about many of the mysteries in the Endless Sea, and he knew that the Endless Sea was the center in which many warriors gathered. It was many countless times bigger than the Merchant Union, the Fire Empire, and the God-blessed Empire, and within it there were countless strong figures. That was his true destination. While it was still dark out, he carefully released his soul consciousness and secretly scouted around. Determined, Shi Yan walked towards the east. Still nothing. South of the dead swamp, Bai Ming-shang's face was grim, and his expression was dark and scary. Not far away, the Lord of the Dark World, Zhou Zihe, was also murderous-looking. These days, we've already searched everywhere in this area. Any active warriors or mercenaries in this area were all identified with our soul consciousness, but we found nothing. Could it be that the kid didn't return to Tianjin City? Didn't return to Tianjin City, Bai Ming-shang frowned and said coldly, "It seems that we have to change directions. I'll go to the east. The rest is up to you." Then Bai Ming-shang suddenly flew out and went towards the east of the dead swamp. "Miss, if that guy were in the dead swamp, shouldn't he be in the south? If he doesn't go back to Tianjin City, then he will never get any protection." On the east side of the dead swamp, beside a waterhole, a giant man next to Xia Xianyan said confusedly, "Go back to Tianjin City." Xia Exan Yen stretched the corners of her lips. What's the use of going back? The Shi family doesn't even have a Sky Realm Master. Not only would he not get any protection, he will bring disaster to the Shi family. If I were him, I would never return to the Shi family before reaching the Sky Realm. Instead, it would be better to go as far away from the Shi family as possible. While saying this, Xia Exanyan knelt down and washed her face next in a stream. Then she finally stood up and said, "Let's go to the east side. The east just happens to be the direction of the Endless Sea. If we really can't find him, then we can just directly return to the Endless Sea." Understood. The two giant men nodded together. Hum, hum, hum. At this moment, a strange humming sound came from Xia Exanyan's pocket. Her beautiful face changed slightly, and she couldn't help but take out a wind chime from her pocket. She stared at the wind chime for a second, and then said in surprise, "The Shura King Shaohan, you will be here soon." Ah, why would the Shura King come to the Dead Swamp? Isn't he trying to find Yang Hai? I don't know either. Xia Exanyan shook her head and said casually, "But it's fine, Shaohan Yi is at the second sky of the Sky Realm, and what he's cultivating is the evil blood path of the 5 Shura paths. If he stirs the evil in his blood, then he would have the power of a third Sky Realm warrior. These Sky Realm Masters in the Dead Swamp are all still at the first sky. Once Shaohan Yi gets here, those people will probably calm down. Or else, with the Shura King's temper, I'm afraid those people would be in the worst of luck. The 3 Shura Kings of the Yang family are all lunatics. Miss, you should be careful and make sure you don't cross his line." "I know what I'm doing." Chapter 105 The Star Martial Spirit. Chapter 105 The Star Martial Spirit. Sponsored by M. Jackson. Shi Yan kept moving east. The Dead Swamp was wreathed in poisonous gas and covered by swamps. To walk in this area, one must be cautious or else he would sink into the mud or be attacked by demon beasts. It was quite secluded to the east of the Dead Swamp, so warriors barely showed up in this area. All along the way, Shi Yan met some mercenaries who were searching for demon beasts and special herbs. They were almost at nascent and human realm, rather low levels. Sure, Yan wanted to leave the Dead Swamp quickly, so he didn't want any conflict with those mercenaries. He avoided meeting them so that they wouldn't remember his face and leak his trail to Bai Mingshang. That night, after careful thought, Shi Yan took out Bai Ming's sky-cracking sword and ice armor from his bag. He threw them into the green swamp and watched them be devoured by the dirty water within. The sky-cracking sword and ice armor were both extraordinary weapons refined by Bai Mingshang. The sky-cracking sword and ice armor contained Bai Mingshang's perception, who may have sensed them within a certain distance. Although knowing that the sky-cracking sword and the ice armor were rather precious, Shi Yan still abandoned them to protect himself. The poisonous gas in the swamp was strongly corrosive, which Shi Yan had already tested, so he believed that Bai Mingshang wouldn't be able to sense them once they were devoured by the poisonous gas. After that, Shi Yan continued to move eastward. At night, 3 days later, standing among the bushes, Shi Yan hid his scent and quietly gazed ahead of him. The sound of a brutal battle came from the wetland ahead, of which one side was much stronger than the other. Although Shi Yan was very curious, he didn't go and watch. He decided to go eastward when the battle had finished. A quarter of an hour later, the battle ahead quieted down. Shi Yan still didn't move. After half an hour, assuming that they might have left, he walked out of the bushes towards that wetland. Swamps surrounded the 2 sides of the wetland, but Shi Yan had to cross the wetland to go eastward. When he got there, Shi Yan found there were 7 or 8 corpses on the ground. Their profound qi had already evaporated into the air, so he didn't get anything. The corpses all belonged to the same mercenary union, as their armors looked similar. From the wounds on their dismembered bodies, They seemed to have been attacked by demon beasts as they were torn apart. He stared at those corpses for a while and found he couldn't get any benefit, so he sped up to leave without further exploration. Well, it turns out you did pick this way. At that time, Xia Exanyan's voice came from the bushes beside him. Just then, Xia Exanyan's beautiful figure, with her face behind the veil, walked out from behind the bushes. Behind her, the two huge towering men were wiping the blood off their hands with a gray rag. "Your people killed them?" Shi Yan asked her calmly. "Yes." Xia Exanyan nodded without further explanation about why the mercenaries were killed. She looked at Shi Yan with her beautiful eyes and said, "You turned out to get the original seal of Ouyangji's star martial spirit." "Ouyangji?" Shi Yan's face changed. "Who is he?" "He was the guy who created the fake gate of heaven and left the original seal of his martial spirit. Ouyangji was a legend from 1,000 years ago in the Endless Sea and was the star god of the three-god sect. He had reached the third sky of the spirit realm, just a step from the true god realm." Xia Exanyan said slowly, "The three-god sect? The star god? What on earth is that?" "Sure," Yen cried in surprise. 1,000 years ago, the three gods of the three-god sect entered the seventh dark world together and fought against Avi Dark King in the Dark Sea. However, they were entangled in the Avi Hell by 30 million soldiers, which resulted in the most brutal battle the seventh dark world had seen in a millennium. The three-god sect lost a lot from that battle and many disciples died. After that battle, only the sun god came back from the seventh dark world while the other two gods disappeared. However, only 5 million of Avi Dark King's troops survived, and Avi Dark King was badly hurt and has never appeared from the bottom of the Dark Sea for the past 1,000 years. The three gods of the sun, moon, and star? The seventh dark world? The Avi Dark King? Shi Yan was so confused that he shook his head. "You mean the gate of heaven was created by one of the three gods, the star god?" "Yes." Xia Exanyan nodded softly. "After that battle, many people thought that the moon god and star god were dead, since they never showed up again in the Endless Sea. According to the fake gate of heaven and strange phenomenon in the Yin Valley, Ouyang-ji must have died of his injuries. However, no one knows how he reached here, killed the level 8 mud dragon, created this fake gate of heaven and god domain, and left the original seal of his martial spirit." "The original seal of his martial spirit," Shi Yan yelled, looked at his heart area, before a dazzling light crossed his face. "The original seal of a martial spirit is an imprint of a martial spirit, so people can receive the martial spirit from inside an original seal. Those God realm experts could turn their martial spirits into original seals so that someone would continue to carry his martial spirit. The star martial spirit's typical sign is that there were spots like stars in the heart area, which formed a miniature star river." Xia Exanyan explained, "This is a martial spirit." Shi Yan's eyes lit up as he looked at his heart area in surprise. "It's not only a martial spirit, but a sacred level martial spirit." Xia Exanyan confirmed, "A sacred level martial spirit?" Shi Yan was dumbstruck. "There are levels for martial spirits?" "Sure. According to its power and number of evolutions, martial spirits can be divided into mortal, profound, spirit, sacred, and god levels. For example, the three martial spirits, the sun, moon, and star, of the three-god sect are all sacred level martial spirits. The reincarnation martial spirit of my Xia family is also a sacred level martial spirit. There are too few martial spirits in your area, so they are not divided into different categories. In the Endless Sea, there are all sorts of martial spirits, and each of them have special features and powers. If they were not sorted into different levels, who would know which martial spirit is more powerful or has more room for development? So what level is the petrification martial spirit from the Shi family?" I'm not sure without any accurate test, but I think it is spirit level martial spirit at best. I've never heard of a sacred level martial spirit appearing in this area. Apart from its power, you will have to see how many times it can evolve and situation regarding its evolution. The details are complicated. In the Endless Sea, there are martial spirit palaces to estimate the level of a martial spirit. Are sacred level martial spirits rare? Of course. Sacred level martial spirits are the highest martial spirits in the Endless Sea. The families who own sacred level martial spirits are all influential powers in the Endless Sea. So do you think sacred level martial spirits are rare? You mean I got something awesome this time? What do you think? Miss Xia, thank you for telling me so much. I want to go to the Endless Sea. Are we traveling the same way? Xia Xan Yen suddenly quieted down. There would be no conflict between Shi Yan and Xia Xan Yen if he didn't go to the Endless Sea. However, once Shi Yan entered the Endless Sea and the message got out that he owned the Star Martial Spirit, the three-god sect would definitely find him at all costs. They would make him the god son of the sect and provided him with the best training resources. The three-god sect and Xia family have many disputes. Shi Yan's Star Martial Spirit would make him an expert in the three-god sect. Once he went to the Endless Sea, the Xia family would have a formidable adversary. Miss, the two huge tower-like men reminded her in a soft voice. You really want to go to the Endless Sea? Xia Xanyan gazed at him with complicated look in her glittering eyes. Shi Yan was a little surprised, but couldn't figure out what was going on in Xia Xanyan's mind, so he thought for a while and smiled bitterly. Do you think I can still stay in Tianyin City instead of going to the Endless Sea? You know Bai Mingshang's power in the Merchant Union. Not only myself, but my family would meet with disaster. I don't have any other choice. Well, to be honest, Xia Xanyan paused and said, my Xia family and the three-god sect are adversaries. With your star martial spirit, you would become an important person in the three gods sect once you go to the Endless Sea. In the future, you will be my enemy and formidable one at that. Shi Yan stiffened and took a few steps back to keep his distance from the three people in front of him. Smiling coldly, he asked, Well, are you three waiting here for me to eradicate any future trouble? Miss Xia, I don't know why you are talking to me. You want me to be a ghost who knows everything? The two towering men walked out from behind Xia Xanyan and moved to both sides of Shi Yan with cold eyes. They were preparing to attack Shi Yan. Hold on. Xia Xanyan frowned and stopped the two towering men, then looked to Shi Yan. You can attach yourself to the Xia family first. I will plant some poison inside you and then send you to the three-god sect to learn their secret skills. Regardless of how high a position you have in the future within the three-god sect, you will always be a member of my Xia family, okay? Going to the three-god sect as a spy of the Xia family? Shi Yan smirked. Spy? This sounds good. Yeah, more or less. What do you think? Xia Xanyan focused her eyes on him. As long as you comply, I will help you. Learn secret skills in the three-god sect and not fight against my Xia family. I swear I won't hurt you. Okay, I'm in. Dash. Chapter 106, Godchild. Chapter 106, Godchild. Sponsored by M. Jackson. Dash. Sure, Yan had to promise her. Xia Xanyan had made it clear that the three-god sect and the Xia family were adversaries. As she had waited in the Yin Valley after she knew that the fake Gate of Heaven was created by Ouyingji, her purpose was obvious. After leaving the Yin Valley, Xia Xanyan assumed that Shi Yan would be here, so she waited for him. Or maybe she had come up with this idea when she was still in the Yin Valley. For Shi Yan, as long as he survived, he would have boundless opportunities. He didn't take the poison that Xia Xanyan had mentioned seriously, as he believed that his immortal martial spirit could easily defend against that toxin. Furthermore, since it was a long way to the endless sea. There was a chance that Bai Mingshang would find him, so it was safer to travel with Xia Xinyan. He would put the past behind him for the moment. He would have the chance to fight back as long as he survived. Since Xia Xinyan explained her purpose, the two towering men then let Shi Yan go, admiring Xia Xinyan's ability to take advantage of the situation. Once Shi Yan was attached to the Xia family and then became a godchild of the three-god sect, they would know everything about the three-god sect. Even the two dumb, huge men knew what it meant. Sure, Yan would be more useful to the Xia family alive than dead. The next 2 days, Shi Yan smoothly traveled east with the three people. Having Shi Yan's promise, Xia Xinyan was delighted and continued to explain to him about the three-god sect. The three-god sect was a huge power in the endless sea and had numerous disciples. The core disciples had the ability to absorb the energy from the sun, moon, and stars from their martial spirits. The three-god sect had three martial spirits: the sun martial spirit, the moon martial spirit, and the star martial spirit. The three martial spirits could absorb the light from the sun, moon, and stars. Warriors who possessed the star martial spirit were the rarest. Thus the star martial spirit was considered to be the most powerful one among the three. There was only one sun and one moon in the Grace mainland, while the stars were numerous. Their combined power was much stronger than the sun or the moon. The three-god sect was very mysterious, and their core disciples were not born with martial spirit, but obtained it after being submerged for 3 years in 3 separate ponds: the sun pond, the moon pond, and the star pond. The sun, moon, and star ponds were the most mysterious places in the three-god sect. No outsiders knew exactly where they were. Even many disciples of the three-god sect didn't know their exact position. The elders of the three gods sect would go to the islands in the endless sea every 10 years or so to collect talented infants and take them to the 3 mysterious ponds. The 3 ponds had a weird power, as many infants would soon die after being placed in them. Generally, less than 20 infants would survive out of 1,000 after 3 years in the ponds. Those who survived would inherit the power to absorb power from the sun, moon, or stars, and thus were authorized to be a core disciple of the three-god sect. They were then sent to the major islands and taught all sorts of martial skills by various teachers. Although those infants who survived the 3 ponds all had a martial spirit, their abilities were varied. As for the sun martial spirit, some infants could absorb 10 times the amount of power from the sun compared to others. These infants would develop their martial spirit several times, and they could absorb the sun's power much faster. Some could even produce sun fire from it. Some infants took too much time to absorb the power of sun, and their martial spirit wouldn't develop even if their realm were to advance. Although the sun, moon, and star martial spirits were all sacred level martial spirits, they couldn't be completely mastered if they were not developed. Almost none of the infants from the 3 ponds could develop the 3 martial spirits to their highest potential. Even if their realm advanced, their martial spirits would stop improving over time. Only a few infants from the 3 ponds showed great talent each century. These infants were called a godchild. These godchildren were promising talents and were candidates to become the sun, moon, or star god. A godchild was so rare that they would be considered as the most precious treasure of the 3-god sect, and the core sect elders would train them personally. Once they were chosen to take the mantle of one of the 3 gods, the rest would become core elders of the 3-god sect, dealing with all sorts of matters. Most of the god children came from the 3 ponds, while some of them were found in another way. Those who got an original seal of a martial spirit was also considered to be a godchild. This type of godchild were the most promising to become one of the 3 gods, since they got their martial spirit from one of the previous gods. Therefore, the godchildren who inherited their martial spirit via an original seal were highly treasured. Shi Yan was a lucky dog. Since Xia Xian Yan wanted to send Shi Yan to the three-god sect, she explained every detail carefully. She depicted the three-god sect as an evil religion with mysterious power and told of many evil deeds performed by the three-god sect to provoke hatred in Shi Yan. Shi Yan knew Xia Xian Yan's intentions, but he just kept silent. On that day, Shi Yan and Xia Xian Yan came to the center of a swamp. They were standing on a dry land and looked for places to step on cautiously. All of a sudden, someone showed up from the swamp and laughed cunningly. "We meet again!" "Zhuo Qi." Xia Xian Yan looked cold as she asked calmly, "Why are you here?" "I didn't come for you." Zhuo Qi smiled and then turned to Shi Yan. "Boy, give me that thing you got from the odd space. I promised Qi Xiao that once you give it to me, I will let you leave the dead swamp alive." "Zhuo Qi, you came for treasure?" Xia Xian Yan took a breath and secretly made eye contact to the two huge men. "Don't play tricks." Zhuo Qi scorned. "I've been watching you for days, and you know my ability in the swamp. Do what I say if you don't want to sink, or don't blame me for killing you." "Zhuo Qi, you can't hurt me." Xia Xian Yan said calmly. "I know Miss Xia can reach the sky realm for a short moment, so what?" Zhuo Qi looked gloomy as he became impatient. "Once Miss Xia advances to sky realm, I will sink into the mud, and when you become weak, I would come out again. I know you can't reach the sky realm twice in a short time. Till then, I can do whatever I want." Xia Xian Yan's eyes turned cold. "You cleaned up the 9-headed sky snake for me. I won't trouble you. Just leave the boy and disappear." Zhuo Qi looked at Xia Xian Yan coldly and reached out his hand to Shi Yan. "Give me, and you can leave, or don't blame me for what happens next." "Zhuo Qi, you are seeking death." Xia Xian Yan grunted and said coldly, "This is your last chance to get back in the mud, or you will regret for it." "Regret? Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha!" Zhuo Qi burst out into laughter. "Show me how you will make me regret." Greenish, profound qi leaked out from Zhuo Qi's body to the center of the swamp. The mud in the swamp moved like waves. In an instant, 10 mud dragons flew out and jumped toward Xia Xian Yan. Xia Xian Yan had an indifferent expression in her eyes as she raised her arms. From the river of time, the power of reincarnation was injected into Xia Xian Yan's palm. Xia Xian Yan, who was at the disaster realm, suddenly rose up into the sky and stared at the mud dragons coldly, a lotus sign appearing between her hands. Countless blue lotuses flew out from her palm, filling the air with a refreshing scent and produced a dazzling light. Every lotus was as big as a wash basin. They surrounded Xia Xian Yan. "Break!" Xia Xian Yan pointed, and a lotus stuck to a mud dragon. With a huge, thunderous roar, the power from Zhuo Qi on the mud dragon was shattered and it turned back into mud, falling into the swamp. "Break!" Xia Xian Yan pointed again, while 10 lotuses struck toward Zhuo Qi. You do this first. Let's see." Zhuo Qi withdrew his head and disappeared into the mud. "Return." Xia Xian Yan seemed to know that she couldn't win against Zhuo Qi, as she stretched out her hand and withdrew all the lotuses to her palm. "Let's go." Xia Xian Yan stretched out her hand and lifted Shi Yan, who was standing on the swamp, then dashed out of the swamp in an instant. The 2 huge men from the Xia family shouted and stamped, then dashed out like 2 bullets before they landed behind Xia Xian Yan. "Shi Yan! Shi Yan! Shi Yan!" At that moment, Bai Mingshang's howls came from afar, containing extreme hatred. The howls became louder and louder as Bai Mingshang approached. Xia Xian Yan's expression shifted at once as she realized the situation had turned bad. She grabbed Shi Yan and flew eastward as fast as she could, while she still possessed sky realm energy. "You can't go anywhere." Bai Mingshang's soul consciousness overwhelmed the space with his crazy howls. Dash! Chapter 107, Strong Aid. Chapter 107, Strong Aid. Sponsored by M. Jackson. Dash! East of the dead swamp, a slim figure was flying in the sky whilst carrying a person. Under her, 2 towering giant men were also sprinting with high speed, as if they were angry black bears. Every time they hopped up, they were able to leap around a dozen meters through the air. In the surrounding swamps, a weird person covered in scales was half submerged in the mud. He moved through the swamp like a giant earthworm. His vicious eyes glinted with a chilling light. He kept watching the sky above the swamp, watching the flying slim figure in the air. Further away, there were crazy roaring sounds. Someone was flustered and exasperated and kept clamoring along the way. His soul consciousness spread out and covered them from afar. The abnormal activity in the east of the dead swamp made many active warriors in this area frightened and baffled. The warriors who were hunting demon beasts all stopped, watching the sky with surprise on their faces. No one knew what exactly was happening. As if they heard their master summons, many demon beasts in the swamps all jumped out one after another and stormed towards the east. In a moment, the eastern area of the dead swamp was a mess. Everyone was looking out for themselves. At the same time, Qi Xiao, Zhuo Shi, and Wu Yinlian had already left the Yin Valley and were walking towards the Yin field under the full exposure of the sun. The Yin field had been cleared of its natural Yin Qi that covered it all year round. Under the blazing sun, all the plants that grew on the Yin field withered and died. There was also nothing left of the demon beasts that were previously active in the Yin field. They either died or ran away. The enormous Yin field now looked like a dead zone, without a single trace or life, not even the sight of a single leaf from a plant. Master, will Shi Yan be okay? Zhuo Shi worriedly asked. I don't know. Qi Xiao shook his head. He faintly sighed in his mind, feeling a little guilty. He knew that the odds were against Shi Yan this time. Although the dead swamp was big, people such as Bai Mingshang and Zhuo Qi all had sky realm capabilities. Not only could they fly in the air, they also had an omnipresent soul consciousness that could spread over a large area. Unless it was a master of the same level, it would be very hard to escape their hunt. At the Shi family, Qi Xiao once promised Shi Jian that he would do his best to protect Shi Yan. However, now that Shi Yan had encountered great danger, he could only stand by and watch. This made Qi Xiao feel a little guilty in his heart. Whenever Zhuo Shi asked whether Shi Yan would be okay, Qi Xiao would shamefully blush a bit, but there was nothing he could do. Those 2 women, why are they following us? Wu Yunlian furrowed her brows. She quietly glanced back and said confusedly, I think they came with the Baiming family. No need to care about them. Qi Xiao glanced behind him and said indifferently, Mu Yudai and Di Yaolin both looked desolate. There was an undissolvable dark haze on their faces as they slowly paced behind Qi Xiao and the group. Even though Zhou Zi, he didn't clearly state his identity. The 2 girls had already guessed that he was the Lord of the Dark World. Although he was not here now, once he properly dealt with Shi Yan, he will definitely come and take away Mu Yudai. The reason why he didn't take care of Mu Yudai now was because he knew she definitely wouldn't be able to escape. Both Mu Yudai and Di Yaolin knew this deep in their hearts. In that strange space, Shi Yan already made a hard blow to their minds. Now, thinking that more miserable fates would follow in the future, the 2 girls felt fretful, not knowing where to go. Xiao Dai, will Ding Yan be okay? Di Yaolin lowered her head and faintly sighed. Mu Yudai's pretty face became cold, and she sneered, he's dead for sure. Bai Mingshang is getting involved personally, and unless he could fly, he'll never escape his hands. Not only will he die, the Shi family will be doomed along with him. Bai Mingshang is pissed. He he will never let this go. I don't know why, but I feel like he's going to be okay. He always shows us a surprise. Diyalin murmured under her breath and lightly shook her head. Surprise? Mu Yudai's expression was cold. There will be no surprise this time. Hey! At this moment, Qi Shao suddenly raised his head and looked into the sky. Suddenly his face changed and he exclaimed loudly, "Cyan bloodbat! Cyan bloodbat!" Zhua sure dazed for a second and also looked up into the sky. "Hey, that is a really big bat. Master, what is it? Is there something scary about that cyan bloodbat?" The cyan bloodbat is a demon beast that can evolve continuously. Its body is solid as iron, it's very strong, and it especially likes to eat the flesh of warriors. So this is a very brutal demon beast. A level 3 cyan bloodbat is already very strong. The cyan bloodbats in the sky now are all at least level 3. And now there's 50 of them at once. This is not right. Wu Yunlian looked up at the sky and murmured, "There are people riding the cyan bloodbats, and they are strong. The weakest being in the disaster realm. Most of them are in the earth or nirvana realms." Qi Shao took a deep breath. His expression was more serious than ever. The leader's capability is unfathomable. Even I cannot be able to sense his true capability. In our area, I don't think there is any force that can suddenly dispatch this many masters. Even the royals of the Fire Empire or the God-blessed Empire can't send out this many masters at once. After hearing that, Wu Yunlian's expression suddenly changed. "No, they're coming down." Qi Zhao's heart sank, and he said hurriedly, "Shaoshi, stand next to me and don't move." Mu Yudai and Diyalin also noticed the abnormal situation in the sky. The girls both looked up at the 7 to 8 meter long bodies of the cyan bloodbats, their eyes glinting with a cruel violet light as they slowly descended. The 2 girls were frightened, not knowing what was going on. On the leading cyan bloodbat, the Shura King Shaohan boldly sat there and condescendingly looked at the people below. His husky voice said, "Which of you knows Shuryen?" "Shuryen. Shuryen. Shuryen." Qi Shao, Zhuo and Mu Yudai exclaimed at the same time. Everyone's faces were full of awe, not knowing why these people would want to find Shuryen. Humph, Shuryen sure has offended a lot of people. Mu Yudai snorted. She righteously assumed that Shao Han Yi and his group were strong enemies that Shuryen provoked. Qi Zhao's face slightly changed. He didn't immediately answer. Instead, he first put his fists together and said, "May I ask what you are finding Shuryen for, Senior?" Qi Shao saw that Shao Han Yi's capability was unfathomable. He also saw that the Yang family's Shura blood guards who sat on the cyan bloodbats were mostly in the earth and nirvana realms. He was extremely stunned, so he didn't dare to overlook this matter. He kept his tone as one of utmost respect. "Senior." Zhuo, Wu Yunlian, Diyalin, and Mu Yudai were all dumbfounded. They became a little absent-minded. Qi Shao was the Sky Realm Master of Cloud Mountain. He was one of the handful of strong figures in the God-blessed Empire, the Fire Empire, and the Merchant Union. It was said that he was more than 100 years old and was a well-known master and senior in all of the 3 countries. But today here, he was referring to someone else as senior. Everyone were speechless. Shuryen is the great-grandson of Yang Qingdi, the head of our Yang family in the Endless Sea. The reason we came this time is to bring him back to the Endless Sea. Do you know where he is? Shao Han Yi saw that Qi Zhao's attitude was not bad, so he slowly loosened his expression and did not expose his irritable, crazy side. The Endless Sea, the Yang family, great-grandson of the head of the family. Shao Han Yi's words made everyone petrified, especially Mu Yudai and Diyalin. The expression on their faces was weirder than ever. They would never have thought that Shuryen had another identity. "So you are the masters from the Endless Sea." Qi Shao nodded. He raised his head and stared at Shao Han Yi for a moment. Seeing that he was becoming impatient, Qi Shao finally said, Shi Yan has obtained the treasure from the gate of heaven and suddenly disappeared from inside the gate. Now he should be somewhere in the outer perimeter of the dead swamp. Currently, several sky realm masters are searching for him in the outer perimeters of the dead swamp. If you want to find him, then do so quickly. If you're too late, then he will have met with a grim fate. Grim fate. All of a sudden, an extremely strong bloody smell came from Xiao Hanyi's body. This bloody smell covered the distance, like a canopy covering them from the sky, making everyone dizzy and hard to breathe from the strong odor. If anything happens to Shi Yan, then all the nations of those involved will be buried with him. Xiao Han left these few words, and then slapped the cyan bloodbat and said, Spread out and search the whole dead swamp. If anyone finds him, send the message immediately. The group of Shura blood guards from the Yang family rode on the cyan bloodbats, and in a moment they were all gone. Master, is this guy strong? Zhua Shi said curiously. I'm afraid 3 Baimingshangs together wouldn't be able to fight him. Qi Zhao's expression was grim. He meaningfully glanced at Mu Yu Dai and Di Yaolin. His voice steadily said, The Baiming family is dead for sure. The people on the cyan bloodbats are enough to sweep away all the 5 families of the Merchant Union. Baiming Shang is doomed this time. Mu Yu Dai's face turned pale. Her body collapsed and she fell on her ass. Xiao Dai! Di Yaolin exclaimed, What happened to you? Mu Yu Dai's expression shifted unpredictably, and complex emotions flickered across her eyes. She looked like she was laughing and crying at the same time, as if she had gone mad. After a very long while, Mu Yu Dai's expression slowly became determined. She suddenly stood up. Come on, let's go find Shi Yan. Why would we want to find him? I will try everything to become his woman. No matter what he wants me to do, I'll do it for him. Ah! Di Yaolin exclaimed. Her hand covered her mouth, with a face full of disbelief. Xia Xan Yan clenched onto Shi Yan, and they were still flying through the air, galloping crazily towards the east of the dead swamp. Suddenly, an untraceable darkness started to slowly form under the clouds ahead. A mass of endless dark power suddenly rippled from the darkness. It wrapped Xia Xan Yan's body, suddenly putting a pause to her speedy flight. Stop! In the pure darkness, there came a cold voice. I am the Lord of the Dark World. I don't want to make enemies with you people from the Endless Sea. If you drop that kid, then you can go now. Xia Xan Yan floated in midair, her expression slightly cold. She said indifferently, I suggest you to mind your own business. My people will arrive very soon. I know you have the capability of a sky, realm first sky warrior, but you're far too weak if you want to go against us. In the Endless Sea, people like you can only be a dedicated warrior and not even one of the core warriors. If you want to keep your prestige in this place, then mind your own business. Not only was Xia Xan Yan not scared, she even gave out threats. I wanted to get rid of exactly this fate. That's why I want what that kid has. In the pitch-black darkness, the voice continued, Don't force me. In order to get that thing, I can give up the dark world. As long as I can step into the God realm in the future, I can rebuild the dark world anywhere, even in the Endless Sea. Xia Xan Yan's face changed. She suddenly realized she probably won't be able to convince the opponent with words. Dash. Chapter 108, Waiting for an Opportunity. Chapter 108, Waiting for an Opportunity. Shi Yan felt humiliated. He was being carried by Xia Xan Yan and flying in the wind. The sharp winds blew on his face, and he felt a stinging sensation like blades stabbing into his skin. Wisps of fragrance from Xia Xan Yan flew into his nose along with the wind. The fragrant breeze should have been a wonderful thing, but his position was seriously awkward and his mood just couldn't lighten at all. He was grabbed by the collar of his clothes and lifted into the air. Sure, Yen felt more like Xia Xayan was carrying him like a package rather than a living person. Although he knew that Xia Xayan had no choice and had to take him to escape quickly, Shi Yan still felt humiliated. There was never another moment like this where he held such a desire for power. He desired stronger power. He desired power that could get rid of everything. Carried in Xia Xanyan's hands, he secretly made up his mind. If he was lucky enough to survive this, he would never let any other person carry him like this. He would use all his strength to find higher ground, and he would override everyone else. Sure, Yen clearly heard the conversation between Xia Xanyan and the woman's voice in the dark. After knowing that it was the mistress of the dark world, Shi Yan's expression became grim, but there was nothing he could do. Although he had many wondrous encounters and obtained for different martial spirits in his body, he was still only in the human realm. There was an insurmountable gap between him and Sky Realm Masters. This wasn't just some minor difference and couldn't just be offset by his mysterious martial skills. He clearly knew his own capabilities, and he knew that against a master like this his chances of escaping would be minimal. So he didn't bother to speak. He only gathered his concentration and tried to find an escape opportunity. Do you really want to become enemies with the endless sea? Xia Xayan took a deep breath, her beautiful figure slowly descending. Shi Yan's heart shook as he could clearly sense that the reincarnation power in Xia Xanyan was slowly disappearing. Once Xia Xanyan used her reincarnation martial spirit, the power of reincarnation would slowly disappear as it did not belong to her. When all of her reincarnation power is used up, Xia Xanyan would revert back to her original realm of a disaster realm. Third Sky Warrior, just standing in midair, used a lot of reincarnation power. When she realized that the mistress of the dark world completely blocked the path ahead, she knew that it would be impossible to keep roaming the sky freely while carrying Shi Yan. They landed. Xia Xanyan dropped Shi Yan, and she coldly looked at the dark cloud that was slowly descending from the sky and said dismissively, "In the false gate, there's only the original seal of a martial spirit. Once the seal has been obtained, it can no longer be used again." Pausing for a second, Xia Xanyan then said, "Which means, even if you kill him, you'll get nothing out from him." While saying this, Xia Xanyan's eyes swept to afar, and she looked towards the swamp next to her. From the swamp came the sound of squelching mud. Zhua Qi's body slowly surfaced from the swamp. Standing in the middle of the swamp, Zhua Qi maliciously looked towards this area. "I don't believe you. There must be something else on this kid. Miss Xia, you just have to give him to me. If I really can't find anything on him, then that would have nothing to do with you." Shi Yan, Shi Yan. Bai Mingshang's roars came from far away, coming closer and closer. "Miss Xia!" Zhua Qi screamed again. "Give that kid to me, and when he drops into the swamp, I will drag him underground. Or else, Bai Mingshang won't leave him alone. I promise you, if there really is nothing on the kid, I will leave him alive." "All right." Xia Xanyan did not mince his words, as she seemed to know that Bai Mingshang was almost here. And with the situation with the mistress of the dark world forcing her hand, Xia Xanyan couldn't just directly take Shi Yan away. After her response, Xia Xanyan did not hesitate. She moved and grabbed Shi Yan and threw him into the distance. At the same time, she opened her mouth and a glistening dagger flew out from under her tongue. The dagger was covered in mysterious runes. The runes were only the size of tadpoles, but they slowly shifted on the dagger, as if they had a life of their own. Once the dagger came out, waves of mysterious power came from the runes. That power was able to cut off someone's soul consciousness. Xia Xanyan swung the dagger and casually slashed down. Suddenly, layers of ripples appeared in the void, glinting with light. The layers of ripples were slashed by Xia Xanyan's dagger, and in the ripples, Bai Mingshang's furious face was faintly displayed. Xia Xian Yan, how dare you cut off my soul consciousness? I will kill you. In the distance, Bai Mingshang roared in madness. His voice was filled with an earth-shaking wrath. Xia Xian Yan remained unmoved. She held the dagger in her hand, and her body swiftly danced. The dagger drew beams of light, making layers of soul consciousness waves in the plain void and shattering that soul consciousness bit by bit. The mistress of the dark world, who was hiding in the pitch-black darkness, saw that Xia Xianyan could cut off the soul consciousness of Sky Realm Masters. Realizing that Xia Xianyan was not easily trifled with, the mistress did not venture out when she saw that Bai Mingshang was about to arrive. Instead, the cluster of darkness slowly floated up the sky again and stopped inside a dark cloud. Thump! Shi Yan's body suddenly dropped into the swamp. Zhuo Qi's face was filled with joy, and he immediately stirred his martial spirit, wrapping Shi Yan in layers of mud. He then dragged Shi Yan with him and sank into the swamp. Shi Yan instantly felt that it was hard to breathe. He hastily gathered his concentration and held in his breath. He secretly circulated the power in his body to prepare for any upcoming situations. In the cluster of mud, Shi Yan felt like he was sinking God knows how many meters into the depths of the swamp. Suddenly, the mud cluster wrapping around his body abruptly dissipated. This was a tightly sealed 5-square-meter cavity in the mud. There was mud all around and only a small amount of air with no exit. In the mud cavity, there was only the excited-looking Zhuo Qi by his side. Zhuo Qi rubbed his hands together, looking very excited. He laughed sneakily and said, "We are 100 meters under the swamp. This cavity is created by my martial spirit. It can guarantee that you won't suffocate to death. Okay, now we can talk about what happened in that strange space. If you hand me everything, I can promise that I won't kill you, and I will even escort you out of the dead swamp. You can figure it out yourself." Shi Yan spread out his hands and stood still in his spot. "Whatever you can find on me, you can take. I only want what you got from the strange space." Zhuo Qi dazed, and then said ruthlessly, "I have no interest in anything else." "I didn't get anything." Shi Yan shook his head and said calmly, "Only bits of starlight enter my body, and now it has merged with my blood and bones. Maybe if you eat my flesh, you can still get some power from the starlight. Kid, you really think I wouldn't dare to eat you?" Zhuo Qi licked his lips and said cruelly, "If I can get power from eating you, then I wouldn't mind eating you whole." Shi Yan's expression remained calm. He simply sat down and said, "It's up to you. The thing is in my body anyway, and I can't take it out, so do what you want. Kid, you would rather die than give it away?" Zhuo Qi's expression was ferocious. He pondered and then suddenly said, "Did you know that I have many ways to make you wish you were dead?" Shi Yan was silent, and he didn't say a thing. The profound Qi negative energies and Yin Qi all quietly came out of his body and started to slowly spread around the entire cavity. The 3 different powers spread out, but didn't immediately form into. Shi Yan was focused as he secretly took precautions. If Zhuo Qi made a move next, he would create the without hesitation. He knew that the definitely won't be able to go against the Sky Realm Zhuo Qi, but he only wanted to use it to restrain Zhuo Qi for a bit. As long as they could trap Zhuo Qi for a moment, even if it was only a few minutes, he grabbed the opportunity to flee to the surface of the swamp and maybe even find a chance to escape. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Earth-shaking sounds came from above the swamp. The violent power fell into the swamp, and even Shi Yan, who was 100 meters deep in the swamp, could still sense the commotion from above. "Kid, don't expect that woman to save you. Now that Bai Mingshang is here, she won't even be able to help herself." Zhuo Qi took a deep breath in and clenched his teeth. "Don't force me to take extreme measures, just give me the thing now." I will promise you that if you're obedient, I will escort you out of the dead swamp. You know my power in the dead swamp. As long as I'm willing. Even if that woman can't protect you, I can. How's this? I only got the sky full of starlight from the space, and now all that starlight is in my body. The starlight can let me absorb power from the stars. It is a martial spirit. If you know how to transfer martial spirits, I wouldn't mind giving it to you. Other than that, I have nothing else to say. Shi Yan said casually, a martial spirit, one that can absorb power from the stars. Zhua Qi's face was full of joy. He was so excited that his body was shaking, and he laughed loudly. It certainly is a treasure. Kid, give it to me now. Quickly, give it to me. Didn't you hear me? Shi Yan frowned. That martial spirit is in me. I don't even know how to use it. How am I supposed to give it to you? Surely there's a way. There must be a way. Zhua Qi was extremely excited, and he shouted in the cavity, if you can obtain that martial spirit, then you can definitely give it up too. Hurry and think. You can definitely find a way. Shi Yan, I'll give you 3 days. After 3 days, if you give the martial spirit to me, I will promise to escort you out. 3 days. Shi Yan furrowed his brows and said dismissively, Okay, I'll think about it carefully. Yes, you have to think about it carefully. After 3 days, if you still can't do it, then don't blame me for being unkind. Zhua Qi grinned. On that day, deafening blows kept coming from outside the swamp, indicating that Xia Xianyan and Bai Mingshang were still battling. When the night fell, the fighting outside finally ceased. Sure, Yan didn't know what was happening outside. His heart sank deeper, and he kept thinking about how to escape from Zhua Qi's hands. Boom, boom. Late at night, waves of a most destructive power suddenly covered the swamp. Those waves of power had such a frightening penetrative force that it pierced 100 meters deep into the swamp. It had an indomitable life force. It kept trying to find traces of warriors in the swamp and came straight at Zhua Qi. What the hell? Who is this powerful? Zhua Qi's face suddenly changed, his expression aghast. He saw that the waves of power came at him like flying dragons. He didn't bother about Shi Yan anymore. Shrieking, he rushed out of the mud cavity and clashed with the frightening power that carried the scent of blood. Shi Yan's eyes brightened. He sucked in a big breath, and hurriedly he rushed out of the cavity, floating up towards the surface without regard for anything else. Dash. Chapter 109, The Shura King. Chapter 109, The Shura King. 100 meters deep in the swamp. The muddy and murky water mixed together, and since there was more mud than water in the swamp, it was very tough to escape. Once a man or a beast falls into the swamp, they will slowly sink in and ultimately be engulfed by the swamp, becoming a corpse at the bottom of the swamp, which will eventually rot and never be seen again. The most frightening part of the dead swamp was the sheer size of it. There were hundreds of thousands of swamps, which had swallowed countless warriors and demon beasts, making all of them die within the swamp. Zhua Qi was the only exception. As a hybrid between a mud dragon and a human, he could naturally move under the swamps and use the mud in the swamps. In the dead swamp, even if he met a warrior of higher strength, Zhua Qi could still easily dive into the depths of the swamps and avoid disaster. All along, Zhua Qi fit to the dead swamp like a duck to water and never paid any regard to other people. But this time, deep below the swamp, Zhua Qi had a terrified expression, and it seemed like he was terrified. The harsh, pungent odor of blood penetrated through the hundreds of meters of swamp like the blood of dragons. This spirit of blood had a strong penetrating power and a shockingly frightening strength. If it was targeting him, even hundreds of meters under the surface, it could still force him into an awkward position. Having lived in the dead swamp for so many years, Zhua Qi was well aware that the deeper you traveled into the swamp, the more corpse qi you would find. The dead swamp had existed for tens of thousands of years, and countless dead souls were buried under these swamps. Those that died in the swamps couldn't gain redemption, and they always lingered at the bottom of the muddy waters. Because of that, there were always strong corpse chi lingering in the deepest depths of the swamp. The deeper you went, the stronger the corpse chi was. The power of this corpse chi could block the scoping powers of someone's soul consciousness, and it could disrupt all sorts of invading powers. If he didn't have the power to control mud, even Joie Chi wouldn't dare to sink this deep into the swamp. But now that a harsh, bloody Chi had penetrated hundreds of meters into the swamp and easily traveled through the strong dead spirits, continuing to chase Joie Chi down, this terrified Joie Chi. For the first time, he sensed death was coming his way. Frightened, Joie Chi could no longer bother with Shi Yan. He quickly descended into the depths of the swamp. Pop! Shi Yan suddenly rushed out of the mud hole. The mud quickly crushed on top of him like a heavy mountain. Shi Yan's body was completely engulfed in mud. He couldn't breathe nor see, and he had to use all of his strength to swim upwards towards the surface. This swamp had a special trait. The harder you struggled, the faster you sank. And even hundreds of meters under the surface of the swamp, that trait still applied. Struggling, Shi Yan felt like he was in a whirlpool of mud. Not only was he unable to escape, but he was also sinking faster. Shi Yan's heart shuddered, and he abruptly stopped his movements. He held in his breath and stopped moving his body. Lights flashed across his mind as he hurriedly tried to think of an idea to escape to the surface. In the depths of the swamp, he couldn't breathe or see, and a flow of corpse chi seemed to be corroding his body. In this state, he would soon die from suffocation. Various thoughts flashed through his mind, and suddenly, in the depths of the swamp, he felt the natural yin chi in his vicinity. Once the yin chi appeared, Shi Yan soon sensed the negative powers that he released before. Shi Yan's mind clicked, and he hurriedly circulated the 3 types of powers in his body. In the swamp, a gravitational field made from yin power, profound chi, and negative energy was formed. Once the field was formed, Shi Yan immediately stirred it and started manipulating the gravitational field to surround himself. His mind was focused on the field, and Shi Yan very carefully controlled the field, then making it start to slowly whirl. The 3 powers intertwined together, forming into a massive grinding power. A lot of mud flowed into the field, and, moved by the grinding power of the field, it slowly started to float upwards towards the surface. It really does work. Shi Yan was overjoyed. He immediately put all his focus on controlling the gravitational field. Following the rising motion of the gravitational fields, his body also started to rise towards the surface. Pooh! After a minute, suddenly a figure shot out of a muddy area in the swamp. The figure slowly rose up into the sky, flying around 3 meters under the cold moonlight, and then suddenly dropped. Shi Yan! Xia Xan Yen exclaimed, her hands immediately forming into a lotus seal, and a gigantic aqua-colored lotus flower flew out from her palms, directly stopping under Shi Yan's body. Shi Yan, who was falling towards the swamp, fell on his ass on the icy lotus flower. The lotus flower carried him and flew away from the swamp, stopping by Xia Xanyan's side. Phew! Xia Xanyan lightly breathed out. She put her hands together, taking the form of a worshipper. The lotus flower that carried Shi Yan away from the swamp formed into streams of passing light that entered into the palms of her hands and disappeared bit by bit. You're hurt. Shi Yan looked at her and frowned. Xia Xanyan's eyes contained signs of exhaustion, and her earlobes, which could be seen outside of her veil, were pale as a sheet. It could be assumed that her entire face must have looked the same. This is the aftermath of using my reincarnation martial spirit. But it's fine, I already used the nutrition pill from your Yang family. I will have recovered by tomorrow. Xia Yan's expression was cold as she pulled a strand of hair from behind her ears and spoke dismissively. My Yang family? Shi Yan was stunned. He said with a deep voice, What are you talking about? Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. In the distant sky, thundering sounds rang out like earthquakes and sounded extremely frightening. Shi Yan raised his head to look into the sky. He could see that under the thick clouds, there was an imposing man with a face full of scars who was unyieldingly suspended in midair. By his side appeared 3 giant rivers of thick blood. The 3 blood rivers were each a few thousand meters long and a few hundred meters wide. They swiftly shifted in the air, showing anyone who saw it a scene they will never forget. The blood in these rivers was thick and filled with a wicked blood spirit. That man with the ferocious expression stood at the meeting point of the 3 rivers. As if controlling the rivers, his 2 hands twisted and the blood rivers moved at his will. From the looks of it, he was battling with 3 people. Those 1,000-meter-long and 100-meter-wide rivers were like 3 giant blood chains in his hands, driving the 3 people in the sky into difficult positions. Bai Mingshan, Zhou Zihe, and the mistress of the dark world all threw their sky realm power at the 3 blood rivers, continually defending against the intrusive attacks of the blood rivers. The man controlling the 3 terrifying blood rivers still had enough spare power to cast out slashes of blood light. The blood light fell into the swamps below, forcing Zhua Qi in the swamp to flee in panic, having no choice but to dive 1,000 meters deep into the swamp to hide. The man with the face full of scars was multitasking in 4 different ways. He fought with 4 sky realm masters, Bai Mingshan, the lord of the dark world, the mistress of the dark world, and Zhua Qi at the same time. And he was still able to gain the upper hand, forcing the 4 masters into awkward positions. Behind the man, giant bats, which were 7 to 8 meters in length, stared out with violent, bloodthirsty eyes. On the bats, many cold-faced warriors silently watched the movement above, as if preparing to cut in at any time. Who is this? Shi Yan's face was full of shock. This was the first time, after he arrived at Grace Mainland, he met such a frightening warrior. One of the 3 Shura kings of your Yang family, Xiao Han, he has a capability of sky, realm, second sky. What he cultivates is the evil blood path of the 5 Shura paths. Xia Yan's expression was complicated. My Yang family? Shi Yan shook his head. I don't understand what you're talking about. You will soon understand. Xia Yan said dismissively and suddenly whistled towards the sky and shouted, Master Xiao, Shi Yan came out of the swamp, he's fine. You guys go down and protect young Master Shi. Xiao Han deeply gazed at Shi Yan from the sky. Then a trace of pleasant surprise flashed across his eyes, and he commanded the Shura blood guards behind him. Just from his gaze, Shi Yan felt chills run down his spine. That man's eyes were like a godly weapon, which could pierce directly into people's souls. It gave him a dominating atmosphere, which was a frightening force of deterrence to others, making them feel, deep down, that they could not contend with him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The cyan blood bats flew down from the sky and stopped by Shi Yan's side. The 50 Shura blood guards rode on the cyan blood bats and surrounded Shi Yan. Young Master Yan. 50 ferocious roars simultaneously came from the warriors on top of the cyan blood bats. 50 Earth or Nirvana realm warriors all looked at him with serious expressions. Shi Yan jumped in surprise. He looked at this parade of warriors with an astonished expression on his face. He had no idea how he suddenly became their young master. Miss Yao, what is going on? Shi Yan was dazed for a moment and spoke in confusion. Later, the Shura king will explain it to you. I'll say no more. Xinyan's pretty brows furrowed, and she spoke indifferently. Yan, what I said to you before will be cast aside now. I'm sure the Yang family will lay out your future well. I'll stop meddling with it. She meant the thing about making sure Yin enter the Xia family and employing him into the three-god sect as a spy. Yen became even more confused. He didn't know why Xia Xian Yen suddenly became so easy to negotiate with. Seeing that Xia Xian Yen didn't intend to explain, Yen instinctively looked up at the scar-faced man in the sky. Hey! Just after one glance, Yen couldn't help but exclaim. Up in the sky, Bai Mingshang became an ice statue, his body wreathed with cold energy, and he quickly flew towards the south. Bai Mingshang is actually running away. Once Bai Mingshang left, there was an even greater pressure on the Lord and Mistress of the Dark World. The two didn't stay either, and also quickly flew to the south, afraid to keep fighting with that man. The Lord and Mistress of the Dark World felt a huge pressure, and they didn't dare to separate from Bai Mingshang when running, scared that if they were to fall behind, they would be killed by that man. Hee, don't try to run. Xiao Hanyi's expression was as ferocious as a demon. He controlled the three terrifying blood rivers, and immediately chased towards the three. Hey! Qi Xiao exclaimed. He raised his head towards the sky and shouted, Bai Mingshang! You could only see that the head of the Bai Ming family was now bleeding through his mouth and fleeted across the sky in panic. There was even a sign of fluster in his eyes. Behind him, the Lord and Mistress of the Dark World were also full of panic. They fled along, as if being chased by some horrifying monster. Mu Yudai and Di Yalan also gazed at the sky in astonishment. They were stunned inside. Not long after, the two girls saw the devil-like Xiao Han Yi charge forward, controlling three blood rivers. The two were lifeless, and all sorts of emotions stirred inside them. Ah! Di Yalan suddenly shouted in surprise. She saw Yen seated on top of one of the cyan blood bats. Chapter 110. You don't deserve that. Chapter 110. You don't deserve that. The cyan blood bat had a length of about 8 meters and a broad back, so it was still spacious, even when there were two people sitting on top of it. Holding onto the cyan blood bat's long, thin ears, Yen clenched his legs tightly on its neck, as the air blowing against him was like a strong gale. Looking down from up in the sky, the warriors in the dead swamp were as small as flies, and a sense of pride welled up in Yen. Riding a demon beast in the sky with the wind shuttle beside his ears, Yen loved the feeling of riding the cyan blood bat. The Shura blood guard on that cyan blood bat noticed Yan's enjoyment. He smiled. If young Master Yen returned to the Yang family, you will have a better mount, and then the cyan blood bat will mean nothing. A better mount. Yan's asked, what sort of mount? A mount that is worthy of you, bigger and faster than the cyan blood bat. It can also understand what you say and will protect you. If the family head presents you with a twin-headed dragon, then please let me ride for a minute. Twin-headed dragons are all level 6 demon beasts, the same as Master Zhao's level 6 cyan blood bat, but more capable than his. Twin-headed dragon? Level 6 demon beast? Don't they have power equal to that of a Nirvana realm warrior? Yen was shocked. In the dark forest, the dead swamp, and the cloud mountain, level 6 demon beasts were already masters, some with even more intelligence than some warriors. Every level 6 demon beast was untamable, and refuses to be any warrior's mount. However, the Yang family could make those demon beasts be mounts so easily, and even gifted them to experts. From this, Yen could imagine how powerful the Yang family was. Yes, twin-headed dragons can shoot ice and flames, making them equal to a Nirvana warrior with twin martial spirits. It can fly better than a warrior at the same realm. That warrior proudly smiled, In the Endless Sea, only a few powers can afford to give their descendants level 6 demon beasts. And we, of the Yang family, are one of those powers. Sure, Yen could presume how powerful the Yang family was. Bang, bang, bang. Blasts came from the sky, looking as if they were trying to crack the world into pieces. Sure, Yen was soon drawn towards it, and he turned his eyes from the cyan blood bat to look towards the front. In front of them, the Shura king, Xiaohani, stood in the sky like a devil, controlling the 3 broad blood rivers and brutally assaulting Baimingshang, lord of the dark world and the mistress of the dark world, causing them to flee. Inside the 3 blood rivers, overwhelming blood gas was flowing like 3 blood dragons. Baimingshang was frozen, and his body was surrounded by ice fire, moving in and out of one of the blood rivers, as he defended against the blood river with a rigid face. Blood light shot into the sky as thousands of magic snakes formed from the blood river and tried to entangle Baimingshang. The blood snakes looked incredibly vivid as they waved their sharp, immortal claws. Once the blood snakes were frozen, due to Baimingshang's ice fire, they fell into the blood river, and then quickly revived and jumped towards Baimingshang, again, this time with even more ferocity. The lord of the dark world, Zhou Zai, generated dark world thorns around his body and looked like a huge hedgehog. In the blood river, Zhou Zai kept producing dark world thorns to prevent the blood gas from the blood river from reaching him, and tried to escape towards the south. The mistress of the dark world stayed in darkness, as she too was devoured by blood river. She struggled, but couldn't get rid of it. Xiaohani was like a devil from hell, and he got a pleasurable feeling from fighting with the 3. He even scorned lightly, not working. Still not working. The warriors here are too weak. You could only be servants in the Endless Sea, and even there you would not stand out. Baimingshang went into a rage, but couldn't do anything. Only at that moment did they realize just how frightening the warriors from the Endless Sea were. They didn't know that, while fighting with them, Xiaohani already pressured Zhua Qi to flee thousands meters into the swamp. Go. Suddenly, the voice of the mistress of the dark world came from the darkness. The next moment, from the darkness, a blast of strange power came. After a boom, that darkness broke down, and a black shadow escaped toward the south. Meanwhile, the lord of the dark world, Zhou Zai, also began to trigger his skills and disappeared like a wisp of wind. Baimingshang's expression suddenly shifted as he saw the 2 disappear, and he quickly tried to escape too. You have to stay. Shura King Xiaohani showed a frightening expression on his scarred face. The other 2 blood rivers suddenly moved crazily and merged into the first river. The 3 blood rivers joined into an endless sea. In the blood sea, Baimingshang's body was drowning, and he couldn't make a move. He bellowed desperately, "Humph!" Xiaohani looked down on him coldly, and then laughed cunningly. You want to kill the descendant of the Yang family? I will kill you first. Xiaohani turned into a bloody light, and then flew out of the blood sea, disappearing into blood gas. From the blood sea came Baimingshang's miserable cries, as he couldn't fight back anymore. Shi Yan was secretly delighted, but he smiled coldly. Baimingshang is finished. That guy is merely at the first sky of the Sky Realm, so he can't fight against Master Shao. Once the 3 blood rivers combined, even a sky warrior at the second sky could be killed. That warrior confirmed in despise he is dead meat. Let's go down, I saw some friends. Shi Yan moved his head to look down, and spoke to that warrior. Sure. That guy nodded happily and patted the cyan bloodbat's head back. The cyan bloodbat cried and dashed down quickly to land beside the group, including Qi Xiao and Zhuoshi. Having the mission to protect Shi Yan, those Shura blood guards also flew down and encircled Shi Yan. Shi Yan got off the cyan bloodbat and smiled to Zhuoshi. Why are you still here? We are just on our way home. Zhuoshi pouted. while looking at the Yang family warrior beside Shi Yan in awe, and said in a low voice, "Shi Yan, who are they?" From her teacher, Qi Shao, Zhuo Shi had already learned of the abilities of the Shura blood guards. Yet Xiao Hani's behavior in the sky still astonished her. Therefore, standing in front of the Shura blood guard of the Yang family from the Endless Sea, even Zhuo Shi was anxious. "I don't know either." Shi Yan shook his head and felt confused. "But they won't do bad things to me." Bang! Just then, a frightening explosion came from the sky. In the middle of the blood sea, Bai Mingshang's body exploded while his head and limbs fell to the ground. The blood sea started to disappear. The hideous-looking Shura king, Xiao Hani, fell from the sky to Shi Yan's side, with a bloody jade bottle in his hand. Inside the bottle, Bai Mingshang's spirit was struggling in hatred. "Young Master Yan." Xiao Hani walked up to Shi Yan, the smell of blood wafting from his body, and smiled. "I didn't prepare any gifts for our first meeting, but this guy is at the first sky of the Sky Realm. When we get back to the Yang family, I will refine a weapon with his spirit as a gift for you." "Well," Shi Yan scratched his head and smiled bitterly, "I don't know who you are, but it's already a big gift that you killed Bai Mingshang." "It's not big enough." Xiao Hani shook his head and said rigidly, "Young Master Yan will be the hope of the Yang family. I have to be good to you before you go back to the Yang family in the Endless Sea, or you will forget me, Mu Yu Dai and Di Yaolin stared at the jade bottle in Xiao Hani's hand and went blank seeing Bai Mingshang's struggling spirit. "Master, who on earth is Shi Yan?" Qi Shao asked after a short silence. Xiao Hani frowned and took a glance at Qi Shao coldly. "None of your business." Qi Shao smiled embarrassingly and stopped asking before he looked at Shi Yan in surprise. "Young Master Yan, let's find a better place for talking," Xiao Hani suddenly suggested. Before Shi Yan was about to nod, he saw Mu Yu Dai running toward him in haste. "What?" Shi Yan turned gloomy and looked at her impatiently. "What do you want now?" "Shi Yan, I want to be your woman." Mu Yu Dai bit her lips and pretended to be cool, but said in blush, "You know you are fond of women. I think I'm not that bad-looking. I can do anything for you, and I will learn to do anything that I can't. I promise I will make you happy. As long as you get revenge for me. I don't need you." Sure, Yin shook his head. Mu Yu Dai's thin body quivered, and her face turned pale, with her lips bleeding. Bearing such huge humiliation, Mu Yu Dai still continued to plead, "To be your concubine is okay. I swear I will make you happy." "You don't deserve that." Chapter 111 Immortal Pills. Chapter 111 Immortal Pills. The cyan blood bat carried Shi Yan and flew to the east of the dead swamp. Soon they landed in the woods, where Xia Xinyan was. This time, Shi Yan sat on Xiao Hani's cyan blood bat. This cyan blood bat had crimson eyes and sharp claws. Its wings were flared out, giving it a menacing dominance. Just as Xiao Hani, the cyan blood bat emitted a bloody smell, as it had eaten numerous warriors. Xiao Hani wanted to talk to Shi Yan, and Shi Yan didn't want to talk to Mu Yu Dai, so he refused her and climbed onto the cyan blood bat without taking any further looks at that snobbish woman. The cyan blood bat landed slowly and stopped in front of Xia Xinyan. Xiao Hani walked up and said lightly, "Little Xia, it's all finished here. I can give you a ride if you are going back to the Endless Sea." Xia Xinyan smiled elegantly. "Thank you, Uncle Xiao." Xiao Hani nodded as he walked aside with Shi Yan and looked directly into his eyes. "Young Master Yan, could I check your body?" Shi Yan was confused and didn't want to wait. "Sure." Xiao Hani reached out his red hand and put it on Shi Yan's shoulder. Then a stream of dense, profound qi went into Shi Yan's body. That agile, profound qi moved all around Shi Yan's meridians. After that, Xiaohani finally nodded joyfully. Well, it seems you did inherit the immortal martial spirit of the Yang family. Immortal martial spirit. Shi Yan was a little shocked, but after spending a few short moments thinking, he realized why these experts from the Endless Sea came here. Young Master Yan, could you cut your arm? I want to see what stage your immortal martial spirit is at. Xiaohani hesitated and then asked, Okay. Sure. Yan didn't feel uncomfortable at all, and he took out a dagger from his bag and made a small cut on his left arm. While cutting, Shi Yan looked calm, as if he wasn't mutilating his own flesh. Xiaohani was observing him carefully. Seeing Shi Yan's boldness, Xiaohani believed Ku Luo's opinion of Shi Yan, that he was a strong-minded one. He, who was brutal to himself, would also be brutal to others. Xiaohani truly believed that, in order to become a powerhouse in this world, one needed to be brutal. Though the Yang family was influential in the Endless Sea, it still had many adversaries. Those demons in the fourth demon area hated the Yang family so much that they would do anything to hurt the Yang family. If Shi Yan was not decisive enough, he may lose his life in the Endless Sea someday. Xiaohani asked Shi Yan to cut himself, as he wanted to test his disposition too. Seeing Shi Yan's ruthlessness to himself, Xiaohani realized that it would be easy to train Shi Yan, so he was very pleased. The wound began to twist like a worm, while the flesh joined with itself. Xiaohani's eyes sparkled. Right in front of him, Shi Yan's wound healed little by little. In merely 10 minutes, the wound completely recovered without a scar. Fantastic! 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 Xiaohani repeated the word in excitement. Without immortal pills, you have already reached the second stage of the immortal martial spirit as a human warrior. Fantastic! Brilliant! Young Master Yan, you are such a genius. It was worth of my journey here. The second stage of the immortal martial spirit. Shi Yan was surprised, and he smiled. Good. I felt my immortal martial spirit had changed when I was in that odd space. So it turns out that it advanced to the second stage. Young Master Yan, the immortal martial spirit of the Yang family, doesn't advance with mere training. It also needs blood. Young Master Yan must have met formidable adversaries in the fake gate and gotten hurt, so your immortal martial spirit advanced. Xiaohani didn't get into the fake gate of heaven, but he knew everything that happened to Shi Yan in there. Right. Shi Yan nodded. Young Master Yan, now I will explain the Yang family to you. The family head went to. Xiaohani told the story about Yang Hai and King Yangqing in details, and sighed. Young Master Hai is middle-aged and unable to fight for the family in the Endless Sea. What a pity. It's good to have you, Young Master Yan. I came all the way to take young Master Hai back to the Endless Sea, but I can't push him when he refused. What do you think, Young Master Yan? Xiaohani's eyes were shining. Before Shi Yan replied, he continued, Young Master Yan, with your temper and talent, you could be a pillar of the family and a legend in the Endless Sea. The Merchant Union is too small of a place for you, and the Shi family can't give you a bright future. Young Master Yan, the vast Endless Sea is so mysterious. It contains god domains, exotic women, and many different experts. That's where you belong, Young Master Yan. To attract Shi Yan to the Endless Sea, Xiaohani kept depicting the various fascinating things in the Endless Sea, in the hope that Shi Yan go to the Endless Sea to adventure. Sure, I will go with you. Before Xiaohani could finish his speech, Shi Yan interrupted. I love challenges. The more dangerous, the more captivating. I will go to the Endless Sea anyway. The earlier, the better. Shi Yan was a fanatic for adventures. He went to the Shi family for a chance to develop himself. However, he was not the real Shi Yan of the Shi family, so he never regarded it as his home. Before such a great chance, Shi Yan seized it without any hesitation. To him, the endless sea was much more attractive than the merchant union. Great! Great! Xiao Hani bursted into laughters. He thought he would have to make a long speech, but was not expecting that Shi Yan would accept so fast. Sure, Yan was only 17, but already reached the second sky of human realm, had twin martial spirits, great talent, and a cool personality. No matter how anyone looked at it, Shi Yan was far more suitable than Yang Hai, due to the cruelty in the endless sea. Xiao Hani will complete his mission if he takes Shi Yan back to the endless sea. Young Master Yan here's an immortal pill made by the family head, which is one of the 7 famous medicines in the endless sea. It can clean your meridians and your whole body. The immortal pills are spirit-level medicine, and sometimes can make a commoner into a warrior by triggering his martial spirit. Once you take it, your meridians will expand and your immortal martial spirit will develop more. Since you've reached the second stage of the immortal martial spirit, you can't advance much though. But it would benefit you a lot, so take it now. Xiao Hani smiled, took out a jade box and opened it, inside which was a pill. That pill was shining with beautiful colors, and from the small holes on it, wisps of pleasing and refreshing scents wafted out. This immortal pill is very strong and may torture you for days, but it does not harm your body. Young Master Yan, take it and I will protect you here. No one would dare interrupt you in the dead swamp. Xiao Hani handed the pill to him with a serious face. Shi Yan nodded and picked up the pill in astonishment. Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. As he held the pill in his hand, he felt the beats from an infant's heart, and the holes were producing a pleasing smell. A spirit-level pill. Shi Yan was a bit intoxicated by the pill, as he now knew more about the Yang family, so he got much hope for his trip to the endless sea. Young Master Yan, the magical properties of the pill will dissipate 3 days after leaving the box. Seeing Shi Yan was calmly observing, Xiao Hani quickly explained. Spirit-level pills, so valuable, he. Somehow, I feel a bit of regret from taking this. Shi Yan smiled with pride and then consumed it. With your personality, young Master Yan, once you enter the endless sea, you will have endless women and treasures. At that moment, young Master Yan won't be surprised by this pill anymore. Young Master Yan, sit down and have a good rest. I will protect you. Xiao Hani spoke softly, smiling. He was hard on others, but very considerate when facing a member from the Yang family. Got it. Shi Yan's expression shifted as he felt a burning sensation in his stomach. Without any further considerations, he sat down cross-legged and tried to digest this spirit-level pill from the endless sea. Chapter 112, Human Realm Third Sky. Chapter 112, Human Realm Third Sky. East of the Dead Swamp. Shi Yan sat on the ground, with his legs crossed and eyes shut. His body was starting to turn red as the temperature of his body slowly increased. Drops of sweat appeared on his forehead, but they were evaporating very quickly due to his high body temperature and changing into water vapor. Soon, around Shi Yan's body, there appeared a circle of mist. The mist kept increasing, and then evaporating from the increasing heat. But still the mist ceased to disappear. Shi Yan's expression soon turned grim. It looked as if he was in a lot of pain. Xiao Hani stood sternly next to him, his eyes focused on Shi Yan, watching Shi Yan's every movement. Some of the Shura blood guards also came around, being filled with curiosity. But under Xiao Hani's watch, they were all silent and didn't dare to make a single sound, scared that they might disturb Shi Yan. After God knows how long, Shi Yan's body slowly trembled, and sweat started pouring down his body like rain, which resulted in more mist forming. From the beginning to the end, Shi Yan hadn't let out a single sound of pain. As more time passed, Shi Yan's expression became more stern as he battled against the pain in his body. Xiao Hani had made an understatement about how painful the process of absorbing the immortal pill would be. The children from the Yang family would usually have special personnel taking care of them when consuming the immortal pill, and they would be given an ice pill to assist them in bearing the pain. The ice pill could lessen the amount of pain induced by the immortal pill, canceling out some part of the violent medicinal effects of the immortal pill and making it less painful for the person who takes it. But once the ice pill was used, the medicinal effects of the immortal pill would lessen by 20%. While the ice pill could remove some of the pain, it will also remove some of the medicinal power of the immortal pill. In Xiao Han Yi's hand, there was actually an ice pill. Originally, he was going to let Shi Yan take it. However, seeing the talent and toughness that Shi Yan had shown, he decided against it. He wanted to see if Shi Yan could really bear through it. If Shi Yan really couldn't take the pain of the immortal pill anymore, then Xiao Han would give him the ice pill. Xiao Hani didn't want Shi Mai to lost out on that 20% of power in the immortal pill. Therefore, he hadn't told him about the assisting ice pill, hoping that Shi Yan could absorb the medicinal powers of the immortal pill to the greatest extent. But he was still nervous. He worried that Shi Yan's perseverance would not be enough and that he would not be able to bear with it. So he didn't dare to relax and remained prepared to lead in at any time. On the other side, Xia Xanyan was watching everything, and a trace of surprise flashed through her beautiful eyes. She was the young mistress of the Xia family, and the relationship between the Xia family and the Yang family had always been close. So Xia Xanyan knew about the secrets behind the immortal pill and the ice pill. She knew that children of the Yang family, unless they were in the disaster or earth realms, would be given an ice pill to assist them. In the Yang family, there were many children who wanted to absorb all of the power of the immortal pill, and willingly chose to give up on the ice pill. However, rarely could any of these people bear through it. Most would give up in the middle of the process, and couldn't help but ask for an ice pill to ease that frightening pain. Xia Xanyan wasn't far from Shi Yan and Xiao Han Yi. When Xiao Han Yi took out the immortal pill, immediately she keenly noticed that Xiao Han Yi hadn't taken out the ice pill. At that moment, her exquisite mind had guessed Xiao Han's intention, and knew what kind of thoughts were going through Xiao Han's mind. Xia Xanyan was also very curious, and she wondered if Shi Yan could really bear through it, or if he would suddenly open his eyes and pass out. The 7 most wonderful elixirs of the Endless Sea each had their own individual effects. The immortal pill of the Yang family was known for its violent and fierce medicinal effects. The extreme pain accompanied with the process of taking the pill was also very well known. She felt that Shi Yan wouldn't be able to hold it, and that he would soon be overwhelmed by the pain in his body. Having that thought in her mind, Xia Xanyan couldn't help but silently move towards him. Xiao Han Yi's brows furrowed. He looked back and glanced at Xia Xanyan and motioned for her to keep silent. Nodding her head, Xia Xanyan signaled that she understood. She kept silent and paced toward Shi Yan's side, quietly watching Shi Yan. A day quickly passed. At this point, Shi Yan's body was all red. Mist covered his whole body, and his expression was contorted, as if he was holding in a great amount of pain. 2 days had passed. Shi Yan's body was trembled slightly, and the amount mist around his body had increased. But his eyes were still tightly shut, and he unyieldingly battled against the fierce medicine in his body. 3 days had passed. The mist around Shi Yan's body had started to take on a darker color. On this day, the sweat on Shi Yan's body also started becoming dark brown. Xiao Han Yi's expression became more serious, and there was even some surprise in his eyes. Xia Xanyan was also secretly amazed. She was shocked by Shi Yan's perseverance, and knew that, this time, the Yang family had caught themselves a treasure. It had always been rare for there to be a child of the Yang family that could take the immortal pill at the human realm, and silently persist for 3 days. Those that manage this feat all generally become famous and domineering individuals in the future. The 4th day came. On this day, Shi Yan's body was visibly shaking. The sweat on his body made his clothes wet, and he looked like he was completely soaked in water. The sweat on his body was no longer of a muddy color, but was now jet black and accompanied by a horrible stench, which continued to become stronger. On this day, the surprise on Xiao Han Yi and Xia Xanyan's faces became very obvious. Those Shura blood guards watching on the side were also amazed, and their faces were tinged with awe. These Earth Realm and Nirvana Realm warriors were almost completely sure that Shi Yan would become a central pillar of the Yang family. His potential was limitless. Shi Yan still made no sound, but his teeth were tightly clenched, and his body kept shaking. His body was like a red-hot iron, and the heat he gave off was astounding. For whole days, and Shi Yan hadn't even made a single pained moan. The children of the Yang family, even the tough-minded men, would scream in piercing pain when they took the immortal pill without taking an ice pill. Moreover, there would be people rolling on the ground, pointlessly attempting to negate some of the pain in their bodies. But Shi Yan was steady as a mountain. He sat still like a 1,000-year-old stone. At the end of the 5th day, Shi Yan suddenly howled loudly. He stood up, and the mists around his body rippled like waves. "Young Master Yan!" Xiao Hani shouted with a deep voice. He said urgently, "Can you still bear it?" Opening his eyes, Shi Yan's eyes were as red as blood. He clenched his teeth and smiled widely. "Awesome!" "Ah, awesome!" Xiao Hani's expression froze as he stared at Shi Yan in daze. "Isn't it painful?" "Painful." Shi Yan shook his head. The redness on his face slowly disappeared. He smiled. "The pain has passed away, and now I'm in the 3rd sky of the human realm. This immortal pill, is forceful." I almost couldn't hold back a scream. Now the pill has spread through my entire body, and the fiery raging power is slowly disappearing. The 3rd sky of the human realm. The Yang family warriors all yelled out, their faces full of astonishment. 17 years old, human realm 3rd sky. Even for those who grew up in the Yang family and the central disciples, who have consumed countless elixirs, could rarely break into the 3rd sky of the human realm at 17 years old. Shi Yan had always been in the merchant union without the assistance of the powerful resources of the Yang family, but had stepped into the 3rd sky of the human realm at 17 years old. Such talent, such cultivation speed, it was utterly too good to be true. Xiao Han Yi's eyes glimmered with light. He took a deep breath and said in a deep tone, "Young Master Yan, it seems that I've underestimated you." Absorbing all of the immortal pill's power within 5 days of time, without any external help, is extremely shocking. If the head of the family knew about your performance just now, he'd be very pleasantly surprised. If young Master Yan returns to the family right now, you might just be immediately rewarded an island and a level 6 demon beast, the twin-headed dragon. An island? Level 6 demon beast, the twin-headed dragon? Shi Yan was stunned. How big is the island? Bigger than Tianyin City. Young Master Yan would be able to do whatever he wants with it. Hee, don't be too surprised, young Master Yan. Wait till you return to the family. Then you'll know how wealthy and powerful the family is. Our family now controls almost 1,000 islands, some of which are even bigger than the entire merchant union. At that time, young Master Shi will know how insignificant the merchant union is. Xiao Han Yi said proudly, "I'm looking forward to it." Shi Yan nodded, his face full of joy. "Young Master Yan, may we go to the endless sea now?" Xiao Han Yi pondered for a second and said, "Young Master Hai does not wish to return, and there is no need to go to Tianyin City. We should just leave now. Right now the 4th demon area is ready to make trouble, and I shouldn't stay out for long. The sooner we go back, the sooner we'll be able to contribute a little more power to the family. Young master, Yen, you also need to be tested by the family and cultivate the immortal rebirth creed so you can quickly become a pillar of the family. It's not good to leave without saying goodbye. We should still go back to Tianyan City. Now Tianyan City must be a mess, and the Mo, Ling, and Baiming families might go against the Shi family. Before I leave from here, I want the Shi family to have no enemies in Tianyan City. Shi Yan frowned and pondered for a while, and then spoke in a serious voice. Although he wasn't really a Shi family member, Shi Jian, Han Zhong, and Yang Hai have treated him well. Now that the Shi family is facing troubles, he couldn't just leave them high and dry. Xiao Hani's group had the power to sweep away all of the 5 families of Tianyan City. With this power, the Shi family could destroy all obstacles in the way and become the true leaders of the Merchant Union. He felt like he should do something for the Shi family, or else he would always feel guilty inside. Favors must be paid and grudges must be settled. This had always been his rule. Young Master Yen is an affectionate man. Xiao Han nodded and said, "Then we will go back to Tianyan City." Uncle Xiao. Xia Xian Yen suddenly spoke up. "All right, you can come along too. We won't stay in Tianyan City for long. Once the business is settled, we'll immediately go back to the Endless Sea. How's that?" Xiao Han said. Xia Xian Yen nodded. "Yes, I'll go along with Uncle Zhao's arrangements." While talking, Xia Xian Yen looked deeply at Shi Yan. She hesitated for a moment, then said, "Uncle Xiao, Shi Yan still has the star martial spirit of the 3 gods sect on him. Don't forget. This will be handled by the head of the family." Xiao Han grinned. The 3 god sect has always been in conflict with the Yang family. If they knew that Shi Yan got the star martial spirit of Ouyangji, I wonder what their faces would look like. Haha. Young Master Yen truly has the best fortune. He even obtained the original seal of the martial spirit. This time, the head of the family will laugh until his mouth is crooked. Let's go. Without further ado, Shi Yan took the lead and walked towards the level 6 Cyan Bloodbat. Chapter 113, Poisonous Bubo. Chapter 113, Poisonous Bubo Tianyan City. Recently, this place was not at peace. Whether it be day or night, there would often be warriors fighting to the death in the different areas of the city. There were warriors dying almost every day. The city was already in such a chaos, which meant it was even more dangerous outside the city. The peasants in the city could often see bright, lightning, and fierce sword spirits outside the city, sometimes accompanied by miserable screams. During the day, the peasants often gathered in the more busy streets, and once the night came, they shut their doors tight and didn't dare go outside. The warriors and mercenaries, which were usually active around the Dark Forest and the Cloud Mountain, were scared to come trade into Tianyan City lately, as if to avoid misfortunes. The ones who knew inside information could sense that this was the 5 families infighting. The 5 families were the 5 most powerful forces in the Merchant Union, and their strife made the normal residents jitter in panic, hoping that the fighting would end soon. The Shi family, Stone Room. The important members of the Shi family, such as Shi Jian, Shi Tai, and Shi Dang, were all scowling, as if something was troubling them. Shi Jian had been unhappy lately too. When Shi Yan and the group left, the Shi family had started to gain the upper hand in the fight between their family and the Mo family. They beat the Mo family miserably, making the people from the Mo family cower in their homes, too scared to go out during the day. However, half a month ago, the Mo family suddenly made a counterattack with a menacing force in tow. During the fight with the Shi family, there were some strangers mixed in with the Mo family's people. These people were experts at using poison, and their methods were incredibly malicious, taking the Shi family by surprise. During their more recent battles, Shi family members were often fatally poisoned, leading to the death of many powerful warriors at the hand of the Mo family. Shi Jian was already full of troubles, and when he heard Yang Hai was related to the Endless Sea, Shi Jian became even more agitated. That day, when the Shura King Xiaohani and the group of powerful warriors from the Yang family rode the cyan bloodbats and befell on the misty pavilion, their pressuring existence had deeply awed the whole Tianyan city, making the great families in the city feel a sense of insecurity, afraid that the misty pavilion might do something striking. After that, Yang Hai returned to the Shi family and explained the background of the Shura king, Xiaohani. After Shi Jian heard Yang Hai's explanation, he couldn't feel happy at all. Instead, he was a little worried. Shi Yan's talent was astonishing. His mind was steady and mature. In Shi Jian's mind, he already thought of Shi Yan as his successor. Now that this Yang family from the Endless Sea had suddenly popped out, catching Shi Jian off guard, he didn't know what to do. Xiaohani's strong appearance made Shi Jian afraid inside. He started to realize that his treasured grandson Shi Yan might be taken away. He was still looking forward to Shi Yan revitalizing the Shi family. If he got taken away by the Yang family to the Endless Sea, he might just puke blood out of his anger. But the Shura king Xiaohani was too overbearing, and the Shura blood guards that came along were also extremely formidable. According to Yang Hai's description, Shi Jian realized that even with all of the Shi family's strength, he still wouldn't be able to go against these people. Thus, thinking that his grandson might leave him, he subconsciously clenched his teeth, but couldn't do anything about it. Not long after Xiaohani left, the Mo family started to fight back. The Mo family seemed to have gained strong aid from the poisonous Dragon Valley. Lately, even the heavily injured Mo Tuo had begun to occasionally show up in Tianyan City. The injuries on his body seemed to have been almost healed, and he indicated on many occasions that he was going to fight to the death with the Shi family. In the following battles, because of the strong aid from the poisonous Dragon Valley, the Shi family repeatedly suffered many losses and lost many strong warriors. These few days, the Ling family has also been ready to make trouble, as if they made an agreement with the Mo family and the poisonous Dragon Valley. They wanted to take this opportunity and beat the Shi family for their arrogance. From the few recent fights outside the city, the Shi family suffered great loss when they lost 3 Disaster Realm warriors and an Earth Realm warrior. Father, the visitors from the poisonous Dragon Valley have been staying with the Mo family. Today I got news that among the visitors from the poisonous Dragon Valley, there might even be the Valley Master. Poisonous Bubo is not only an alchemist, he's also at the first sky of the Sky Realm. The power of his poisons is no trivial matter. God knows what the Mo family offered them, that they actually managed to invite poisonous Bubo. This time we're really in a lot of trouble. Shi Dang's expression was not pretty. He deepened his tone and said, Mo Chao Gu and Mo Chao Tian were killed. Mo Zhan and Mo Qi are also dead. This time Mo Tuo has really gone crazy, or else he wouldn't have invited poisonous Bubo from the poisonous Dragon Valley to come. That Bubo is a dubious man. This time Mo Tuo has invited serious trouble. The poisonous Bubo! Shi Tai exclaimed. His face suddenly became grim. He clenched his teeth and said, Mo Tuo really has gone crazy. That Bubo is an ambitious man who has always wanted to come and cause trouble in the Merchant Union. In the past, he's always had Bai Mingshang on top of him, so he wouldn't try to make trouble. Now that Mo Tuo invited him first, he has a legitimate reason to be here. I'm afraid this time the Mo family is going to be taken over by the poisonous Dragon Valley. Shi Tai's face turned green, but he stayed silent. Big brother, the poisonous Bubo has a set of poisonous abilities. It is said that he eats all sorts of poisons every day to strengthen his power. Any normal man who approaches him would rot to death. He's definitely one of the most frighteningly evil men in the world. Shi Tai took in a deep breath and spoke angrily. How could Bai Mingshang turn a blind eye on this? If this Bubo really controlled the Mo family, then he would become a great threat to the Bai Ming family too. I don't know what Bai Mingshang is thinking. It seems that Bai Mingshang is not in the merchant union right now. Shi Jian stayed silent for a moment, then he clenched his teeth and said, Han Feng sent the news last time. He said Bai Mingshang most likely went to the dead swamp. Lately Bai Mingshang proclaimed to outsiders that he is closed-door cultivating, and he won't be dealing with any incidents in the merchant union. Even with the poisonous Bubo here, he still didn't appear. There's definitely something wrong. He went to the dead swamp. Shi Dang's face changed. That kid Shi Yan is also there. If Bai Mingshang went there, wouldn't Shi Yan be in danger? Shaking his head, Shi Jian said, most likely not. Qi Xiao and that girl from the Misty Pavilion are both there. Even if Bai Mingshang went there, he wouldn't dare to cause trouble. Master! Master! At this moment, a cry came from outside. Han Zhong sprinted his way here and said urgently, Master! Master Hai has been heavily wounded by someone. His injuries are very serious. What? Shi Jian's expression turned cold. His eyes were almost about to spout out flames. He said furiously, Yang Hai has never cultivated in any martial art. He's not a warrior at all. This is known by all of the merchant union. The Mo family would even dare to attack Yang Hai. They've really thrown away all rules. If something happens to Yang Hai, I will fight to the death with Mo Tuo. After Shi Jian roared, he hurriedly followed Han Zhong out and urgently rushed towards where Yang Hai was lying down. In a room filled with smell of medicine and blood, Yang Hai was lying on the bed with his body covered with blood. 3 physicians from the Shi family bustled with the different bottles and jars, constantly pouring different medicines into Yang Hai's blood-filled mouth. Their expressions were serious. Yang Hai's hand and feet bones were all fractured, and his chest was covered with deep sword cuts. He was unconscious. Together, 3 disaster realm warriors of the Shi family knelt down on the ground. They were also covered by blood. With a serious expression, they all clenched their teeth. Wang Wei, who did it? Shi Jian's expression was frighteningly grim. While his eyes turned red, he took in a deep breath and said with a low voice, The Ling family and the Mo family. The disaster realm warrior named Wang Wei, who was kneeling on the ground, had a face full of anger. We were accompanying Master Hai to transfer medicine to the West Pharmacy, and then we were attacked in an alley. Other than the Mo family warriors, the attackers also included people from the Ling family. That young Master Ling, Xiaofeng from the Ling family, was also there. Ling Xiaofeng! Shi Jian's eyes were bursting with murderous thoughts. That little bastard wants to die. How dare he attack Yang Hai? I will finish him off. Father, Ling Xiaofeng has always wanted to marry Mo Yenyu. Recently I heard that the Mo family gave a condition, saying that as long as they kill 2 direct descendants of the Shi family, the Mo family will marry Mo Yenyu to Ling Xiaofeng. That kid is crazy about Mo Yenyu. Lately he's been strolling around with the Ling family's warriors, as if trying to find an opportunity to attack. But the direct descendant warriors of our family have also been very careful and have never left the family, so that kid never got the chance. But because Master Hai is not a warrior, he had to go out and take care of many matters for the family. I didn't think that Ling Xiaofeng was so crazy that he would even attack Master Hai, who has never cultivated in any martial arts. Shi Dang clenched his teeth. Yang Hai's sister, Shi Qing, was also Shi Dang's sister, which was why his relationship with Yang Hai was very close. All these years, Yang Hai worked with all his dedication for the Shi family. Shi Dang clearly knew this, and had treated Yang Hai as his true brother. Now that Yang Hai was heavily injured, Shi Dang was also furious. He was irritated enough to kill someone. Big brother, Hai is badly hurt. The Ling family really wants him dead. Sure, Tai clenched his teeth, The Ling family is already going against the rules by doing this. Big brother, if we don't go and punish the Ling family, they'd really think we're easy to bully. Bother, you go take a visit to the Zhuo family personally. We really need to talk over this thoroughly. Shi Jian breathed in and advised him, bring more people, be careful along the way. Humph. Shi Tai's expression turned cold. The people from the Ling and Mo family don't have the guts to attack me yet. If they really dared to come, I don't mind killing them all. Anyway, be careful. Shi Jian advised him again. Father, will I be okay? Shi Dang asked worriedly. Shi Jian looked deeply at Yang Hai and sighed. Don't worry, if any other ordinary person got injured this bad, they would be dead for sure. But Hai is special, and he still has some life left in him, so he will definitely recover. They dared to attack Hai, that means they fear nothing now. We need to be ready as soon as possible. Yes. In a remote alley between the Shi and Zhuo families, there was a very secretive garden. The garden had long been unoccupied, so weeds grew all around and spider webs were everywhere. However, today in this garden, many figures appeared. Occasionally quiet voices came from one of the wooden cabins. Master Bubo, today the Shi family will definitely send powerful warriors to the Zhuo family. Now that the Shi family is starting to be afraid about attacks, it is important that they talk with Su of the Sus. This time, it's very likely that Shi Tai will go personally. At that time, I would hope you could lend a hand and poison that Shi Tai first. Then we could easily kill him. Mo Tuo's voice came faintly. The reason why I came from the poisonous Dragon Valley was to help the Mo family. My disciple, Xieshou, was killed. This grudge has to be settled with the Shi family. A dark and chilly voice responded. Brother Mo Tuo, if I help you to kill Shi Tai this time, that girl of yours has to marry into our family. That kid Xiaofeng has been longing for your family's girl for a long time. You can't get away with this any longer. That kid can't wait anymore. See, he even took care of Yang Hai for you. How's that? Once Shi Tai dies, the marriage between Yan Yu and Xiaofeng will be immediately held. All right, I was waiting for that. Chapter 114, Shi Tai's Death. Chapter 114, Shi Tai's Death. With a gloomy face, Shi Tai was walking through Tianyin City with 7 Shi family escorts. From the Shi family to the Zhuo family, almost every street was a commercial street. The crowd made way for them when they saw horses from the Shi family. Shi Tai sat rigidly on his horse, pondering on how to talk with Su about the Ling family. After a while, the troops, including Shi Tai, reached a quiet street. This street was in between the Shi family and the Zhuo family. Though not crowded, there were usually vendors present. But today the street was completely quiet and not a single vendor was seen. Shi Tai didn't think much about that because recently Tianyin City was chaotic, so citizens rarely wander through quiet streets. The troop was moving at a fast pace, and so they quickly reached the midpoint of the quiet street. Shi Tai's expression turned serious. Boom! A stone wall on the side of the street suddenly exploded. One after another, huge rocks flew into the air and then fell toward Shi Tai. Meanwhile, several shadowed came down a side street and hurtled toward Shi Tai, like eagles swooping down on their prey. Broad, long lightning zipped toward Shi Tai. The space was sealed as a huge net covered the entire block and sealed it from all directions. Shi Tai bellowed, Mo Tuo, Ling Ju. Dragon-like lightning, together with a net, blocked the street, and everything quieted down at once. Bang, bang, bang. Shi Tai's body hardened as he used his petrification martial spirit and pushed his nirvana energy to the max light shot out from his body and smashed the rocks which were flung towards him. Bang, bang, bang. On the sides of the street, the remaining stone walls exploded, one by one, and more rocks flew toward Sure Tai, like a wave of hills. Wisps of light purple smoke came from the blast and floated around Sure Tai. Though angry, Sure Tai held his breath. "Bubo! We, of the Sure family, will never stop fighting you. Your Sure family is too weak, and you will die soon." Bubo's cold voice came, like a poisonous snake, full of despise. Wisps of smoke pervaded and covered Sure Tai and his troops. Excluding Sure Tai, all the other members of the Sure family group were at the disaster or Earth realm. Although they all had held their breath, they couldn't defend against the purple smoke, and their skin turned purple, and they were greatly tortured, feeling as if millions of insects were nibbling at their bodies. Screaming miserably, those Sure family escorts fell to ground, and their bodies began to rot away. After petrification, Sure Tai, in the poisonous purple smoke, turned purple as well, feeling pain all over his body. "Humph! You, being at the Nirvana realm, are such a fool to go against my poisonous, rotting smoke." Bubo's cunning voice came from the top of one of the buildings along the street. "Papa, papa." The electric dragons produced by Emo Tuo struck on Sure Tai endlessly. Meanwhile, the net produced by Ling Ju wrapped around Sure Tai. The experts from the Emo family and the Ling family rushed in and encircled Sure Tai. Numerous sharp weapons shone and were shot at Sure Tai like raindrops. Sure Tai was turned into a pincushion, and due to the poison, his petrification spirit couldn't defend against them. "Kill." Emo Tuo finally showed up. He raised a silver hammer, which was covered with lightning, and slammed it down on Sure Tai. "Kaka-kaka." Every bone in Sure Tai's body broke, and he was bleeding profusely. Boom! With a hideous face, Sure Tai's strong body fell to the ground and quickly rotted away. Ling Ju walked out from a tree shelter and coldly looked at the rotten body. "Well, Sure Jian lost an arm, and Sure Tai is dead. It will now be much easier to attack the Sure family." Emo Tuo looked delightful, and he again struck Sure Tai's skull with his hammer. I will bury the Sure family with my grandson. Sure Tai's death is just the beginning." Emo Tuo looked ferocious. "Brother Emo, I think we should first arrange our children's wedding. While the Sure family will be making funeral arrangements, we will be having a wedding. Isn't it interesting?" Ling Ju came up with an idea. "Good." Emo Tuo burst out laughing. "Come here, pack Sure Tai's bones, and send them to the Sure family. It's my gift for them. Wish the members of the Sure family a long life. Ha ha ha." "Yes, sir." At the dead swamp, Sure Yen sat on the cyan blood bat with Sure King Xiaohani, who had an uncaring expression on his face. They were training. When Sure King Xiaohani trained evil blood path, he could influence the blood of the people around him. Sitting beside him, Sure Yen felt disturbed, and his blood was out of control, trying to gush out of his body. Xiaohani, as if sensing Sure Yan's abnormality, suddenly opened his eyes, smiling. "Young Master Yen, my evil blood path can influence other people's blood, so you have to be careful while sitting near me. Hee, if young Master Yen doesn't like it, you can change to another cyan blood bat, all right?" While talking, Xiaohani secretly glanced at the cyan blood bat, on which Xia Xinyan was sitting quietly. Xia Xinyan was still wearing a veil, and her clear eyes were looking absent-mindedly off into the distance. Her thin hands pressed on a bone on the back of the cyan blood bat, while her slim body showed perfect curves. She was truly captivating. Following Xiaohani's eyes, Sure Yen gave Xia Xinyan an appreciative look, and his mouth quick to the side. "Old Xiao, is this woman highly sought after in the endless sea?" For the past few days, Sure Yen had accompanied Xiaohani. Sure Yen was a casual man. Even when sitting with an expert at the second sky of the Sky Realm, he didn't show any respect and still talked openly. Xiaohani was used to battles everywhere, so he was an untamable person. He was fond of Shi Yan's boldness, so he also talked casually to Shi Yan. Of course. Xiao Hani showed a meaningful expression. This girl is a top-class beauty in the endless sea. Every man is dreaming of her. However, she is always cold towards them. Young Master Yan, if you nail her, even the family head will be surprised. Shi Yan just smiled reservedly. Old and young, both brutes. Xia Xinyan seemed to know what they were talking about as her white neck turned, and her bright eyes were filled with disdain. Little Xia, you hear that? Xiao Hani was also thick-skinned as he giggled. Little Xia, our young master Yan is great. Though his realm is rather low now, he will have a great future. As soon as we return the endless sea, he will train with the immortal rebirth creed of the Yang family and will advance rapidly. A marriage between the Xia family and Yang family would truly be fantastic. What do you think, young Master Yan? Shi Yan looked indifferent, but secretly cursed that Xiao Hani said such an impolite thing. Xia Xian glanced at Shi Yan coldly. Although he is very talented, his realm is too low for the time being, and it's not certain whether one day he could advance this far or not. He wants to marry me? He has to wait till the day he can beat me. Shi Yan touched his nose, not angry at all. Beautiful Xinyan, you said it. Don't worry. I will beat you sooner or later. Just wait. Beautiful Xinyan? Xia Xian was dumbstruck, and she shook her head with an embarrassed expression. Well, you do belong to the Yang family line, so you are as shameless and arrogant as them. Shi Yan was shameless and not embarrassed at all. It's a deal. One day I beat you, you will. Till that day. Before Shi Yan could finish, Xia Xian interrupted him. However, I don't think I will see that day. You are developing, I'm developing too. When you have reached the disaster realm, you won't advance as fast as you are now. I wonder if you will still be so arrogant then. Don't worry, Xian, I won't keep you waiting. Shi Yan kept calling her Xinyan, as if he had grown up with her. Xia Xian had such a gorgeous face, bright brain, and perfect figure. How could Shi Yan ignore that? It was because he was out of her league before, but now Shi Yan seemed to have some hope. Xia Xian was uncomfortable hearing him call her Xinyan, as she stared at him once, and then patted her cyan blood bat softly. That cyan blood bat slowed down and maintained a long distance from Shi Yan. Shi Yan didn't mind that, and turned back to watch her with obvious lust and desire. Good boy. Xiao Hani praised and said in a low voice, To nail this woman is beneficial to our family. I'll support you in your conquest. Think about it. Take it easy. Easy. Shi Yan beamed with sparkling eyes. Even Xiao Hani does not know what he was thinking about. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.